away we go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. This is the Fan Upstate. Welcome in, y'all. Happy Thursday. Good to be with you. I am Rob Brown. The audio Red Bull to get your day kicking is underway on the other side of the metaphorical glass. Hashtag dad kicks. Were you just angry that you had to put on glasses? What just happened?
Yes, I'm angry that I have to. Finally, the reading part is just about gone. But the problem is, because I have to wear them trifocals, I can't look. All these screens are perfect. The screens in front of me. If you're watching on stream at YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, you probably can't see that I have 4 screens in front of me, 5 screens in front of me. I've got 5 screens. I can see all my screens perfectly, but I just wrote something down and I couldn't read what I just wrote because it went blurry. And I don't know if it's sinus related or if my eyes are finally said, nope, you're going to need these from now on to read. The problem is if I put them on the read, I can't read the screens unless I tilt my head a certain way. Man, getting old sucks. It really does.
I was just thinking, yesterday we opened the show with Rob hurt his shoulder by sleeping. Today we open up with Lonzo wrote something down and then couldn't read it. The thing that he just wrote down. Ladies and gentlemen, we have planned on this show going on for many, many years. I feel less and less confident in that promise, to be honest with you.
I don't know about all that. Unless I can get glasses for reading that I put on when I turn my head to the left, and then screen glasses when I turn my head to. There are a lot of people in the building wearing those blue blocker glasses. Have you seen those?
I have.
Yeah.
I actually have a pair at home, and then I went and I looked through because I was very curious about them, and it turns out there's very little to no science to support that they actually work. Do you remember a couple of years back? And I may or may not upset or offend some of you guys who are still rolling these things, but do you remember a couple of years ago, Lonzo, there was all the rage about the little rubber bands that had like a hologram sticker on them, and it's like if you put on this rubber band, your balance goes up and your internal body chemistry gets like baseball players.
I gotta say,
I'm the hell out of these
I'm
things.
not into mood stuff. It's basically a mood ring, right?
No, it was so the sold premise behind them was like this hologram had some chemical composition that your body reacted to. And
what did the hologram look like? Was it Pikachu?
It was like, how when you buy a new cap, it's got the hologram sticker on it. It just was that stuck onto a thin rubber band that went around your wrist. And you would go, I don't know if maybe I'm crazy. You could go to the mall and they were selling these things for like $7, right? And it's like, if you buy and they would do this thing where they would have you stand with your feet together and lock your arms in front, like lock your hands in front of you. And they would push down on your hand. And when they push down on your hand, you would fall forward. Like they would pull you forward, and then they'd have you strap on the bracelet, and they would do it again, and that time you wouldn't fall. And they're like, see, it helps your body like align its center of gravity using whatever this hologram has.
Wow, this is some carny stuff.
It 100% was. And I got into it with a dude at the mall one time because he did, like I went and I did it, and he's like, all right, put on the bracelet, you won't fall. And I'm like, word. Can you do it again without the bracelet, though? And he's like, well, no. What, put on the bracelet and you won't fall. I'm like, right. I got that. But now that you've done it once, will you do it again without the bracelet? And if I fall over the second time, and then, if I fall over the second time and then I put on the bracelet and I don't fall over that time, we'll know it's real. But if you do it a second time, and I don't fall, then, it's just the reality of you don't know what to expect the first time, right? You don't know what that sensation is, and then your body adjusts to it. And he's like, no, just do it with that. No, do it a second time. Let's do a little science experiment here. If I don't fall the second time, then we know your little bracelet's junk. And the dude refused to do it.
So you tried to go straight up science with the guy who works in the mall.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely did. Because as soon as I saw it, I know what was. And by the way,
and then we left. Hey man, did you see that jerk? What was he trying to do? I'm just trying to do my job.
I get it, and I felt like I do feel bad in retrospect. This was
no, you don't.
I did a little bit. This by the way was like legitimately 17 years ago that these things got big, and I still see them.
Oh, okay, because you're making it sound like this was last year.
No. This was like 17 years ago. These bracelets got big.
I can tell you,
college.
I am just as uncool now as I was 17 years ago. So that sounds like a cool guy fad. And yeah, I would not.
Oh, it was very much. And by the way, I'm curious, do any of y'all know what I'm talking about?
I don't think my kids did it though, because they would have been in high school and I don't recall them wanting something like that.
Let me see if I can find a picture of it. Yeah, here it is. I'll share it on the stream. Facebook.com/thefanupstate. Facebook.com/thefanupstate. Twitter.com/thefanupstate. Go to YouTube, search and subscribe to The Rob Brown Show or The Fan Upstate, actually, and The Fan Upstate. And then hit us up on Twitch at The Rob Brown Show as well. I will put these up on the screen because they got real big back in the day. They were real big during like in the baseball world. There's a picture of what they look like. They were real big in baseball back in the day. They were called Power Balance, right? And they were like a silicone bracelet with these little holograms on them. And it was meant that if you wore these things, like it would enhance your balance. And I remember in college that there were like football and baseball players, Lonzo, who would have like 8 of them on, right? They'd have like 2 on both. Like guys were wearing them on their ankles. Like they were all in. And they did this demonstration where
wait. Guys were wearing them on their ankles?
Oh, yeah. They were, yes, because they enhanced your balance.
Okay,
was this a better athlete?
Was this at the beach, or this was just? No,
like athletes, like people playing baseball were wearing these things, right? And so you would go.
Baseball
to the
players are a superstitious lot, so if they think something works, they're going to do that.
Absolutely. They also made them in they would weave these holograms into like rope bracelets, like survival rope bracelets. So you go to the mall and you would lock your hands like this down in front of you, and the guy would push down and you'd fall over, and then he'd have you put on the bracelet and he'd do it again a second time. And the second time you wouldn't fall. So we were at the, let's see, I was in, what mall was it? It was in Pensacola. I was in Pensacola at the mall. I had the guy do it, and I'm like, before I wear the bracelet, will you do that a second time? Like, let me try again without the bracelet. And the guy refused to do it. And this is why I don't feel bad for the guy, right? Because I know he was just trying to do his job. But I don't feel bad for the guy because the fact is he wouldn't do his little test a second time, which means he knew it was junk. He knew it was junk. Because if he didn't know it was junk and he believed that this thing worked, then he'd have gone, yeah, I'll go ahead and do it a second time to prove to you the thing.
I know it's been a while.
You know you are a fraud.
How old was the guy?
I don't. He probably was in his mid to late 20s.
Okay. I mean, if they never trained him to, if someone did that, maybe he was confused and he had no idea how to handle it.
All he had to do was do it a second time. It was very simple. Very simple. I would have been happy to take that the second time. All I said was, and I told him, if you do it a second time and I fail it, and then I put on the bracelet and it works, I'll buy one. Absolutely. If you prove to me it works, but do it a second time, right? This is controlled experimentation. It's the control experiment. You do it once. I've never experienced that sensation before, so I don't know how to react. But now that I know what that is like, my body can understand, okay, this is what's coming. I can prepare for that. And if you can't knock me down a second time, it just means that's junk.
Yeah, but you might, but also you may resist and cause it to not work just to prove it didn't work.
But then it doesn't work, right? If I can do it without the bracelet, then what the hell do I need it for? Why are people paying $7? All right, anyway, this is a very weird tangent to be on.
By the way, Trey, that's the meanest thing you've ever said. On the stream, Trey says they don't work. Dick Grayson's parents was wearing them when they died.
Lonzo offended on behalf of comic book characters. I respect it.
So it's my favorite character of all time, so of course.
So anyway, What a weird tangent to go on, but it's Thursday. We get weird towards the end of the week. Does anybody else but me remember these dumb bracelets?
Yeah, because I don't remember it at all. So
text us 71307. Start your text with fan. Let me know. Now, I know like the younger listeners in the audience, you're not going to remember it because it was a long time ago, right? I was at the Drive game last night. And my man Carter, one of the guys that works with us, my man Carter, I was talking to him last night. And he's like, hey, you're a wrestling guy. And I said, yeah. And he's like, what's your, who are your favorite wrestlers? I was like, Flair, Ultimate Warrior. And he's like, yeah, I wasn't around when those guys wrestled. Ugh. Thanks, big dog. Appreciate that. Anyway.
I don't know. Flair had a really long career. So,
true.
I mean,
So does anybody but me remember these dumbass bracelets that everybody wore because they centered your chi or whatever? Text me 71307 and let me know if it's just me. But they were huge for a while. Big day on the show today. A lot to get to. It's Thursday, which means that coming up here in right at a half an hour from now, Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation podcast is going to join us. And we, ladies and gentlemen, despite being a month and a couple of weeks away from the National Football League draft, are at a point in time where all eyes are on the Carolina Panthers. And I say that sincerely about the league as a whole. Indy needs to know. Houston needs to know. Chicago certainly needs to know. But there is smoke right now that perhaps the Panthers may actually be in on the market for Lamar Jackson. They might actually be interested despite reports to the contrary. We'll talk about that with Rashad coming up in about a half an hour from right now. It's Thursday, and you know what that means. Fight Club with Lonzo comes your way at 11:20 this morning, and we have got a lot of stuff to cover on the Fight Club today. John Bones Jones destroys Cyril Gaines. Was it a work? I'm sure Lonzo will have an answer for you there. Plus, there's been a lot of WWE, including the final segment of Monday Night Raw, where something very interesting happened. Not Jay putting Sammy down, but what happened moments before that. We'll get into that on Fight Club at 11:20. And a ton of other things to get into. Let us, I'll tell you what, I want to run to a break just a second early here. It's not early. I'm technically exactly on the clock the way we're supposed to be. But I want to do that because there's an interesting discussion going on about Lamar Jackson. That discussion is this. There is a host of current and former players who are making accusations of collusion amongst NFL franchises because of the fact that Lamar does not have a seeming market around him right now. Are those accusations of collusion justified or not? I've got a couple of arguments why they are and one major one that says they're not. I'll tell you what they are when we come back and get your thoughts on it. Texter says, I remember those bracelets, Rob. I fell for the fraud. It was very convincing at the time. Oh, yeah. 100% it was. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't going crazy. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. What's up, everybody on the stream? Good morning. Happy Thursday. Welcome in. Glad to be with you. How y'all doing?
Yeah, 17 years ago, I probably weighed 400 pounds and would not venture into those kind of stores. Although it would have been fun.
So,
can you stop me? Can you stop me from falling, dude?
So the test was you would stand with your feet together. You would lock your hands like this. And the guy would put his fist down in your hand, right? And there was no countdown or anything. He'd just be like, all right, when I push down on your hands, I want you to try to balance yourself. And before he'd even start talking, he would literally drive his whole body weight, and it would pull you forward, right? So then he put on this bracelet.
Did he make you put your feet together?
Yes, your feet were together.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
So then you put on the bracelet and you take the same pose and you would put your hands together and he would do it again. But I noticed there were a couple things that happened. First and foremost, the first time you got the test, you didn't know what he was going to do, right?
Right.
So you don't know what that feeling's like. And I think most of us would kind of stand locked in And so, of course, your center of gravity when you lock your body up.
Yeah, but if your feet are together, it's not going to matter.
So here's the thing. He would put the bracelet on, and he would punch down, and it would pull you forward. So the second time when you had the bracelet on, I noticed something when I saw him do it. The first thing is, obviously, you're now like, even though your feet are together, now you're prepared. So you know to kind of like put your shoulders back to move your center of gravity backwards. And the second thing is the first time he would sink his weight into your hands. And the second time he would just go like this, right? So there wasn't nearly as much force. So you would respond. And then always, obviously, the bracelet. So that's when I told the dude, I was like, I'll tell you what, do it a second time. And if I fall, I'll buy you a bracelet. He's like, no. That's not how it works. Put on the bracelet. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So Trey, they sold these things because they had it, and I want to say it was with Major League Baseball, but they sold these things with team logos and stuff on them. MLB players were wearing them, right? Now, I'll tell you this. If I was making $40 million a year playing a sport, I would do everything that I thought gave me a chance, right? Because worst case scenario, the placebo effect is real, right? Like we have studied and done. You can know that you're taking a placebo and the placebo effect still works. It's wild how the human brain is so dumb sometimes. So if I was a pro athlete, dude, I would wear every bracelet, necklace, anklet, toe ring, anything that somebody said it would give me an edge, I would do it all just in case, right? If nothing else, let the placebo effect work to give me some more confidence. But this was so evidently a fraud from the beginning, and people were buying it hook, line, and sinker. It was insane. It's like, dude, it's a sticker. It's a sticker. It wasn't even like, if it was like a chunk of metal, and they're like, this is magnetized ferrite pulled from a volcano, I'd be like, all right, well, you know, whatever. It was literally just a sticker on a rubber bracelet.
Yes,
Come
I
on,
do.
man.
I do remember those, Steven. Rob probably had a bunch of them.
Of what? Oh, those bracelets?
No. Read the thing.
Oh, the necklaces? Yeah, they were the.
No. Read Steven, the last one.
I don't have one. I just have. Oh, the one at the top?
No. How's your thing? No, I'm looking at the stream. Are you looking at the
So am
stream?
I. The only thing I have from Steven is, isn't the copper band stuff the same thing, basically?
Does yours go reverse order?
Because why am I seeing stuff you're not seeing?
That's the first comment was the copper band. Is that what you're talking about?
Nope. I'm seeing While on Memory Lane, Zoe.
Nope.
Do you remember Muscle Men, the little pink wrestlers?
I don't have that. Oh, there it is. It literally, I refreshed it and it came back.
Okay.
Muscle Men, the little pink wrestlers.
They're like little pink. I mean, like the stuff you would get out of gumball machines.
Ah,
Do you ever get anything out of gumball machines?
yeah,
Toys?
yeah.
I didn't know if that was beneath, I didn't know if
favorite
1%ers, put quarters in
Our favorite
things.
things were the sticky hands
Yeah.
that you would throw across the room. And the game in high school was you would either try to steal stuff off of people's desk or walking down the hall, try to get your guy in the face with it.
I'd say that's mean, but it's high school.
And it
so,
was hilarious.
yeah.
Lamar Jackson on Tuesday got the franchise tag from the Baltimore Ravens, but it was a non-exclusive franchise tag. That's a gamble from the Baltimore Ravens. Why? Franchise tag exclusive, they'd have owed him $45.2 million for a single year of service. Franchise tag non-exclusive, it is $33 million. However, with the non-exclusive tag, as has been said many, many times over and over again, other teams can now negotiate with Lamar Jackson. They can offer Lamar Jackson a deal. Lamar Jackson, should he accept that deal, the Baltimore Ravens then have the opportunity to match that contract. If they match the contract, he remains a Raven. If they elect not to, then the team who offered that contract to Lamar Jackson can then sign him to that contract, but would have to send 2 first-round picks to the Baltimore Ravens in return for the rights to Lamar Jackson. Now, Lamar Jackson is 26 years old. And the conversation that has been going on is this. Deshaun Watson just got a $230 million guaranteed contract from the Cleveland Browns, while facing nearly 24 lawsuits for sexual harassment and assault from women around the Houston area. When Deshaun Watson left the Houston Texans, there were no less than 5 teams in the NFL that were having conversations about signing Deshaun Watson. I'm ashamed to say my Saints were one, the Falcons were one, the Browns were one, the Panthers were one, and I believe, wasn't Dallas in that mix as well? Now, maybe not Dallas. There was one other team. It doesn't matter who it was. Point was, there were 4 or 5 teams in the NFL that were looking at signing Deshaun Watson. We knew that the contract was going to be stupid fat, maybe not as fat as Cleveland made it, but we knew it was going to be a lot of paper. Lamar Jackson can be negotiated with now, and it would cost you 2 first-round picks. Lamar Jackson, we talked about yesterday, early in the show, has a reputation of being injured. Lamar Jackson has missed 8 games in 3 seasons, 6 of them this year. And I believe that Lamar Jackson could have absolutely come back at the end of the year for the Ravens, but did not do so in order to prove a point to Baltimore. You can't win in the playoffs without me. That point came true. There is some thought, and I have this thought, that Lamar did not need to miss the playoff game. Remember, with 2 weeks left in the season, there was talk about Lamar could be ready by the end of the regular season, certainly by the playoffs. He did not come back. But there are now a number of National Football League players who were throwing out the C word. Not that one, collusion. They are throwing out the possibility of collusion. Why? Because Deshaun Watson, who was 28-25 as the Texans starter with 1 single playoff win and had not played in a full season at that point, had multiple teams chasing him down. 12 months later, 2 of those 3 teams, Carolina and Atlanta, are still looking for their franchise quarterback. Here is Lamar Jackson, a guy who was the NFL's 2nd ever unanimous MVP. He was 23 years old at the time. He has won 45 of his 61 career starts in Baltimore, a better winning percentage than Deshaun. He is just turned 26. He is considered a pillar in his South Florida neighborhood where he grew up and in Baltimore where he plays his football. He can be acquired for 2 first-round picks. Do you remember how many Cleveland had to send to Houston? 3. 2 first-round picks for Lamar. And this is the biggest one of all, he has not been accused of sexual harassment and misconduct by over 24 women. Yet, the market is stone cold for him. Why is that? Now, there are a handful of players, and not just nobodies. J.J. Watt, RG3, Tyrann the Honey Badger Matthew, Jaquan Brisker, Quandre Diggs were amongst a solid fistful of players who started throwing around the collusion word over the last 2 days as to why Lamar has a stone cold market out there right now. Remember, Lamar got the tag, and within hours, we found out Atlanta allegedly not interested. Carolina allegedly not interested. Washington allegedly not interested. So the players are going, wait a minute. There is no excuse why a guy who has better numbers than Deshaun, was the 2nd ever consensus MVP, did it at 23 years old, who, despite the reputation, does not have a deep injury history, a guy who is considered to be a good dude. Now, much like with Deshaun, who was also considered to be a real good dude until he was not anymore, I hesitate to label NFL players with, oh, he's a good dude. He appears to be a good dude is the right way to phrase that because you just never know. But by all accounts, he goes out of his way to be charitable in South Florida, where he's from. He goes out of his way to be charitable in Baltimore, where he plays his football. All of the situations that you would bring up as a reason to sign or not sign Lamar Jackson, he appears to be better than Deshaun Watson. Yet some of the same teams, at the least Carolina and Atlanta, some of the same teams that seem to be very much in on the bidding process for Deshaun, immediately said that they are out for Lamar. Let me start with step one. My favorite phrase during draft season is what? Smokescreen, right? I do not believe for a second that every team that immediately went, we're out, no thanks, is actually out, right? You want fewer teams publicly in the bidding for Lamar. Why? Because you want to keep the price down. And if Lamar knows there's 8 teams gunning for him, he can, will, should ask for more money. If there's only a couple of teams that are interested, then Atlanta can call Lamar and go, hey, man, I know we said we're out, but we just, we wanted to talk to you privately, quietly, right? And again, Lamar represents himself, which, by the way, respect to Lamar Jackson, really dumb decision, right? Really dumb decision. Dude, get an agent. Because whatever rate you're going to have to pay an agent, you're going to get more money in that contract for having one. He is going to negotiate that in there. Get somebody to guide you through this process. Because you're not a financial investment expert. You're a quarterback, my guy. Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk floated the thought that there are NFL teams who are uninterested in Lamar Jackson because of the sole reason that he's representing himself. Why? Think about this. When you sign a contract, like the contract you're going to have to sign Lamar Jackson to, a contract that I am going to guess is going to be in the neighborhood of $200 million guaranteed. One of the things that an NFL team wants to be able to do is constantly have access to restructure that. Hey, we want to move some of this money to a roster bonus, some of this money to a signing bonus, so that you can kind of keep that cap number down as much as you can moving forward. If a guy's got an agent, especially a guy with a contract like Lamar, if a guy's got an agent and you're an NFL GM, if you're a week and a half into that season and we need to be working now to restructure his contract 8 months from now, you can call that agent, right? Hey, agent guy, next year, we're going to need to move $22 million of Lamar's contract salary into a signing bonus so that we can lower his cap number. The agent goes, great. We also want this to make that happen. Are you going to go week 4 of the NFL season to your quarterback and go, Lamar, let's talk about game plan, and restructuring your contract? No, right? It puts you in a tough spot. And Florio's making the argument that he says at least one team is out on Lamar, not because they don't want Lamar, but because they don't want to deal with Lamar as Lamar's agent, and that if Lamar went and got an agent, that team would be much more willing to talk to him. I don't know if I believe that or not. I will say it's got some weight to it.
I think as far as that goes, if you lowball Lamar when you're talking to him yourself, then you're going to hurt yourself as a team. I'm talking about the team. If the team is just talking to him and you go, yeah, that's all we're willing to do, then suddenly Lamar's like, okay, then he's going to badmouth the team, or he could badmouth the team, or he's going to use it as revenge next time he plays you. I think the biggest problem in all this has nothing to do with collusion. It's Cleveland's fault. It's Cleveland's fault. What they did, they paid way too much money for a troubled quarterback, and now that set the market, and people are not willing to do that. And why pay that much money when you can get a draft pick a rookie quarterback and have that guy on a rookie contract?
The answer to that is, and I've said this multiple times, I've said it to Rashad.
And how far has Lamar went in the playoffs? And yes, he's had minor injuries. Last one could have been major, but one of them is recurring when you talked about it yesterday, the ankle thing. And I see why guys are not going after him, and you're going to have to restructure how you do your offense, which means you may have things set up a certain way. You're going to have to maybe get rid of some people, bring some other people in. There are a lot of things you have to do if you bring Lamar in.
You do that for a guy who was consensus MVP 3 years ago. You do that for a guy who is the only reason.
How many AFC championships has he played in? How many playoff games has he won? How many Super Bowls has he been to?
So this is why I despise the Super Bowls are the gauge talk. Baltimore.
But for most people, or at least a good amount of people, they are.
Yeah, and it's wrong. It's still wrong.
Just because someone has a different opinion than you doesn't mean it's wrong. Maybe you're wrong.
Is Dan Marino a great quarterback?
Not really. Not really. He is overrated. I've always thought he was overrated. All the talk about, he's the best guy to never win a Super Bowl. There are a lot of guys out there that's just as good as Dan Marino.
Is Brad Johnson as good as Drew Brees? Because the Super Bowl numbers say they are.
Sure. They're both NFL champions. Well, you know what both those guys are? Both those guys are something that Lamar is not. They are champions, and he's not going to be one until he can prove it, and he hasn't proved it yet.
As Lonzo has elected to not take this conversation seriously.
Oh, I'm taking it very seriously. I absolutely am taking it seriously, and I'm doing it from a fan perspective. And from a fan perspective, that's how fans gauge things.
Let me say this. To say that Brad Johnson is better than Lamar Jackson because he has a ring is just silly. It's just silly. All right. Now, and that's the point. Brad Johnson had an incredible Tampa team built around him. Lamar has had an
Is Dan Marino better than Eli Manning?
Yes. Yes.
No, Eli's got 2.
Right. Thank you for helping my argument.
Eli's got 2. Yeah. No. I'm winning this argument. I know you don't think you're. I think you're okay.
Texter. And by texter, I mean all of you. 71307. Dan Marino versus Eli Manning. Who is better? Just text fan Marino or fan Manning. We will leave this to the people because it seems to me like the ring conversation is
the ring
time.
So now, you're acting like a ring doesn't matter.
No, here's what I'm acting like. And we have to come back to this because the conversation about quarterback rings equals greatness is so overblown in my mind because you are asking for individual credit for a team accomplishment.
Will Eli Manning make it into the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, probably.
Would he if he hadn't won those 2 Super Bowls?
No, not.
Thank you.
That doesn't.
Thank you.
You are still judging an individual,
but it's not me
based on a team accomplishment.
It's not me judging.
I know that, and everybody else who does it is also wrong.
Okay,
they're all wrong.
All right. You guys aren't crazy.
Let's see. By the way, 4-0 Marino over Manning so far. So we'll come back to that in a little while.
Wow. And if you go out on the street and ask the normal person, hey, who is a better quarterback, Marino or Eli Manning? Some will say, who's Marino?
No, they won't.
Yeah, they will.
But we'll come back to that because this remains a segment about Lamar Jackson.
You seem to be worked up about this. I mean,
because that's a terrible take.
No, it's not.
It's a terrible take.
It's a fan take, and I'm a man of the people. I guess you're not, but I mean that's on you.
You know what? I'm doing something I don't ever do.
Well,
bring Rashad in now. Bring Rashad in right now.
Uh-oh.
Rashad,
you need to make sure Rashad was ready.
Rashad. I don't care if Rashad's ready because Rashad's going to be on my side. Rashad.
That would be like a first in like months.
Number 1, Dan Marino or Eli Manning, who is a better quarterback?
Marino.
See, but no. See.
Stop.
You didn't give the context of the conversation.
Number 2 is Lamar Jackson a bad option at quarterback because he hasn't made an AFC championship game yet?
No.
Thank you.
What have you proven? I don't know what you proven.
Despite butting heads for the last 4 consecutive weeks.
By the way,
all
I'm talking about is that teams that are out on Lamar know that they can get a cheaper option and going up and getting a CJ Stroud, getting a Bryce Young, and build the rest of the team around them, which is a different model. It's like in Carolina's case, something they haven't tried before.
All right, let's do this.
But then you went and did all that, you left all my stuff out.
I wanted to talk about the fact that NFL players are accusing teams of collusion for not getting Lamar, and it denigrated into a Lamar ain't got a ring.
Did it denigrate? Did it denigrate? Because I don't think it did. I think it's a conversation that we need to have because there are more fans who think the way that I'm representing than there are on your side.
Texter says this argument is disrespectful to Mahomes. Praise be he. Let's take a break. Rashad Beard's in the house. We're talking Panther football when we come back on the Rob Brown Show. It's Rob. It's the great one, Lonzo. This is the Fan Upstate. Oh. I had a sneeze attack halfway through that segment that I was fist fighting to not die.
Rashad, he's getting violent in here. I don't know what's going on.
A little aggressive.
Feeling myself a little bit.
I sense some aggression.
Ruthless aggression. Did Cena go too far with theory?
We're going to talk about that. Yes, absolutely.
I loved it.
Because I came in and said something to you about it after it happened.
You did. And yes, the what was the point of the Cody thing?
Well, let's not spoil the conversation that we're going to have later.
It's just a taste.
You just all wanting to go.
I'm worked up.
Good.
I'm worked up.
You can spin that on Rashad and just leave me out of it.
I'm not leaving you out of it.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit back and watch, be entertained.
I've never seen a Sparta kick work before.
Well, it's a good move, because you're not putting as much effort into it. You can get a little more hip movement, just kicking them right there. Yeah,
I mean, have you ever seen it work that effectively?
It worked really well. That dude was not expecting it.
I mean, dude, I've never seen the Sparta kick work as effectively as this guy pulled it off. Watch the kick. Pow! Never. That's insane.
A lot of power.
Right. I mean, so he didn't have to raise his leg very high. So he's getting all that torque right there at that. That was well done.
I mean, it's like I've seen people attempt the Sparta kick, and usually you might see a guy like take a step back or two. I've never seen anybody just get pancaked like that.
Did he yell, "This is Sparta" when he did it, though?
If he didn't, he wasted a great opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get that many chances in life to yell that before you do that. I think you should reenact that with another employee in the hallway later. Just walk up and do that. Let's see what happens.
Rashad, do you remember the power bracelets from back in the day that everybody wore, like the rubber bracelets that had the little hologram sticker on them?
I do remember those.
Okay. We talked about those this morning and how everybody went crazy and they were just like nothing.
Yeah.
I saw a guy wearing one last night. Like,
bring it back.
Yeah, 17 years later, still rocking it.
Yeah, I'm surprised what circles back around, man. A lot of things are coming back or have come back.
So when bell bottoms come back again, you're gonna rock some?
They're already kind of coming back. My kids I've seen them wear them.
Okay, I'm sheltered. I like go home to the woods after work, so I don't know.
Here's how I know I'm old. Because this is the second time in my life that bell bottoms.
Right, that's what I was wondering. If
bell bottoms came back in the early 2000s, and then they went back away, and now they're back again.
No, they're back. They're coming back.
It's unreal.
Yeah, baggy clothes are coming back. It's
the just 90s fashion as a whole.
It's coming back. It's all coming back. I can't keep up either.
Well, just don't throw anything away. I mean, you keep it in good shape. Yeah.
Basically. Yeah.
If I still had my 90s wardrobe, I'd be a millionaire today.
Yeah, you keep talking about 90s, and I was already pretty old by then. So, I mean, so when bell bottoms originally were in, I was wearing them. So I mean,
they came back around just when they came around.
My mom made me, so it wasn't like I had a choice. I mean, I was a little kid, but I was at the skating rink rocking some plaid bell bottoms. But But my mom also made me disco in front of her friends. So I mean, that's something that you guys never had to endure, I hope. I'm not saying I was bad at it, but I had to do it in front of her friends. There was
a
embarrassing
period of time, I would say probably right after I came out of college, where like club dance music went disco for a little while. Like not like overtly Bee Gees disco, but they put like a lot of the bass grooves in the back that were very disco.
Were you okay with it?
I didn't hate it. I was never a big club guy, though. I was always a bar guy.
I've never been to a club, so I mean,
You a club guy or a bar guy, Rashad?
Neither.
If
I do it, if I go out, I'm like a lounge guy. I don't.
Oh, okay.
I don't do. I partied enough in college. I got it all out.
The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Robin the Great One, Lonzo with you today. And now, as we are every Thursday, joined to talk a little Carolina Panther football with one half of the Panther Nation podcast, available on YouTube by searching and subscribing to the Panther Nation podcast. Follow them on Twitter as well at Panther Nation PC. Rashad Beard is in the house. What's up, big fella? How we feeling?
What's going on, man? I got a better question for you. How are you feeling?
I'm feisty today, big guy.
I'm
ready to roll today. I take no prisoners. Lonzo got me fired up.
Take no
segment.
prisoners.
Take no prisoners.
Like you handed it to me. No, I don't think so.
All right. So let's start with this. Lamar Jackson gets the non-exclusive franchise tag. He can be negotiated with, and if he accepts a contract, 2 first-round picks bring him to your team, plus obviously the contract. Now, we know that Lamar is looking for the neighborhood of a Deshaun Watson contract. And it's an interesting predicament because I think we all agree that Cleveland overpaid Deshaun and just completely topsy-turvied the quarterback market in the National Football League. But it's done. It is what it is. Lamar Jackson knows his value. Higher win percentage than Deshaun. Statistically, every bit, if not better numbers in most categories. I think that if there is a quarterback who warrants Deshaun money, it might be Lamar. Within hours of Lamar saying or getting the non-exclusive tag, Atlanta said they were out. That's a team that was in on Deshaun. New Orleans was out because they were in talks with and got Derek Carr. Carolina said they're out. Washington has said they're out. These are all teams that were in for Deshaun, despite all of Deshaun's off-the-field stuff. Do you believe, A, Rashad, that all these teams are for sure out? And B, do you believe that Carolina is for sure out because he seems like a phenomenal fit in Charlotte?
Yeah, I think this is a bigger issue. I do think those teams are out for reasons, and I do think there's a slight hint of collusion here. And here's why I say that. Is because there's a bigger picture at play. When you have a guaranteed contract, that money has to be in your hand. Not every ownership has the capability to shell out said money. So you think about the quarterbacks that are coming up. You've got Joe Burrow coming up on his contract. You've got Justin Herbert coming up on those big deals. I think they're trying to nip that in the bud, saying, hey, let's relax with these fully guaranteed deals. And I think that's what's happening. And I think everybody's kind of putting their foot they're drawing a line in the sand saying, nah, we can't continue to shell out this kind of money. Although I think Lamar Jackson is handling it the way he should, right? He has until week 10 of this upcoming season to then sign that tender. He can negotiate so he can wait for injuries throughout training camp. He can wait for somebody to panic and then go out there and pay him. I do think somebody's going to end up giving him that guaranteed money. I just don't know if it's going to happen in the time span that he wants it. It's difficult with Carolina because not only do you have to give out the 2 picks, you have to pay him as well. So it's not one or the other, and that's where it gets tricky. You have to have not only the picks, but you have to shell out the cash too. That's why I think some teams are maybe out as well.
Rashad Beer from the Panther Nation podcast here on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. My thought was Carolina's got to move to 3 to get a quarterback, right?
Yep.
I don't think there's any other option at this point, especially with what Anthony Richardson did at the Combine, what CJ and Bryce already were, and even Will Levis has, because of the rising tide lifting all boats. I don't know that in fact, I don't think there's going to be a quarterback available after 5 at the least. And the problem you have is with both Arizona and Chicago wanting to trade back, but still be in the range to get those top 5 defensive players on the board. 9's a big ask. And my thought, Rashad, becomes the package you're going to have to put together to get to 3 for Arizona is probably going to be similar to what you'd have to put together with Chicago to get to 1, elevated, because neither one of those teams wants to go all the way back to 9, especially if they subscribe to the belief that all 4 QBs are off the board by 5. The fear that I have, and the reason I would be in, if David Tepper truly is an open the checkbook kind of guy, the fear I'm in is Carolina doesn't move to 3 or 1, not because they don't want to, but because neither of those teams is interested in going all the way back to 9. And you get to the end of the draft and you still don't have a quarterback there. I almost think if Tep really is an open checkbook right now, I just make the play for Lamar, suck it up, keep my draft picks, build a great young team around him, just like Kansas City's done with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I agree. It makes sense. It does make sense for the Carolina Panthers. I just don't know, and I'm going to be fully transparent here. I'm starting to get a little nervous about, because of the scenario you just mentioned, right? For us to get up to 3 or move up to 1, whatever we're going to do, I think they have a plan. I hope they have a plan. But with free agency coming up and the quarterback domino starting to fall with, you spoke him up, you wanted the used car so bad you got him. I feel like I am a little nervous. You got Rodgers looking like he's about to go to the Jets. These dominoes are starting to fall, which we anticipated happening. Where are the Carolina Panthers going to insert themselves? Because we do need a quarterback really bad. We only have Matt Corral on the roster right now. And I know we're probably going to sign a veteran in free agency, but the long-term solution is not there. I agree with you. We do need to get to 3. I think 3 is the magic number. That way you ensure one of the top 4 guys. So I'm still on the CJ Stroud train. I would take CJ Stroud on a rookie deal versus shelling out the picks and paying Lamar. That's just my personal opinion. But I also see where you're coming from, because you're ensuring yourself that Lamar Jackson is going to be your quarterback, and it is what it is. So, and you're not taking the risk of waiting on a CJ Stroud or whatever. So I hear your argument, but I'm still with CJ Stroud on a rookie deal.
So then I am Chicago's GM at 1. I am Arizona's GM at 3. Put me your package together. What's the value here? Because my fear is, while you don't have to worry about the guaranteed money, the size of Lamar Jackson's contract for a guy like CJ, I think you're going to have to put together a package that is better than 2 first-round picks, even to get to 3 at this point. So what as you're playing GM, you're Scott Fitterer right now, give me a ballpark thought on what that value is to get to 1 or 3 if Lamar's not an option.
Yeah, to get to 1, and I think that's where we need to go. We need to get all the way to 1 with Chicago. And I know Chicago has mentioned they don't want to go out of the top 5, but I think, money talks, and if you give the right package, they'll make it work. But I do think it'll end up being like a 3 first-round pick type situation this year, 24 and 25. I think you're going to give up maybe 1 second this year, because we do have 2 second-round picks. So it'll be 1 second this year, probably a 3rd next year, and maybe another future pick. It's going to be a nice package. I mean, but it is what it is. And I feel like this. If you land the guy, hopefully you're not picking in the top 10 again. You won't have to worry about those picks. That's the way I think about it, if I'm going to make that trade. But I think, so 3 first-round picks, maybe a second-round pick this year, second-round pick next year in 2020, and maybe another late-round pick somewhere in there, something like that, something to that effect. And I have to look at the calculator to see if that will work, but something in that range.
Yeah, I'm afraid, Rashad, and I've told Lonzo this before, and he's still like, sell the farm, I don't care. And I get it. CJ Stroud is physically the most complete package.
Hey, real quick, Rashad, what did you think about CJ Stroud at the combine?
Oh man, he looked great. I love not only did he look great, I love the confidence he exuded when being interviewed. The ball placement specialist. I'm the best quarterback, and I love that. I love that. He looked great during the long throws were a little shaky. I know, one of the receivers dropped a couple of times. I think he had a couple of drops, but man, the touch he's able to put on the football is so good. And I just think if you pair him with Frank Reich, I just think the potential was through the roof. So that's why I'm all in on CJ Stroud. And I've been that way since day one. Since months ago, I've been all in on CJ Stroud.
All right. So let's say the best you can do is get to number 3, right? Arizona's willing to come back. Chicago doesn't want to come outside the top 5. We know that. The best you can do is get to 3. My assumption is Stroud and Young are going off the board. One of the two is going first, but those two are top 2. Richardson had a hell of a combine. Levis is viewed as the guy who is more NFL ready, still needs some polishing. Which one of those cats is the next guy? Because I saw 2 mock drafts. I hate fan mock drafts, but you got to pay attention. 2 mock drafts that had Carolina go into 1 to get Anthony Richardson at 1 overall. Do you think the Cats are that high on him?
No, I don't think we're that high on Richardson at all. I think that, and if you read the reports that are out there, they don't view him as a day 1 starter. And I think there's only 2 day 1 starters in this draft, and that's going to be CJ Stroud, Bryce Young. That's why you want one of those 2 guys. Levis, I think, needs a little bit of time. I don't think he needs as much time as Richardson does. But I do think, and all that said, I do think Richardson has the highest ceiling. If he maxes out his potential, he will be the best quarterback in this draft. But that's a huge risk, and he has to go to the right system. I don't think the Carolina Panthers have the time or the structure in place to wait on a Richardson to develop. So I don't think they're high on Richardson at all. I think they would take, if it was a situation where they were to trade up to 3 and Stroud and Young are gone, I do think Levis would be the pick. I would not necessarily be happy with that. I'm not with trading up all that and then getting Levis. That does not sit right with me. If I'm going to do all that, I'm just going to wait, and I'll take a hooker in the 2nd round versus doing that.
All right.
Personally.
I put this together yesterday. I thought Lonzo was going to slap me. All right. Here's your play. Go to 3, get Richardson, bring in Jameis to teach him for a year.
Man, listen.
He's cheap. Cap casualty.
I know. I got mixed feelings on Jameis. I like Jameis because I'm a Florida State fan. So I like Jameis. And he's got a lot of potential, but man, it's just something about him. It's just off. So I don't know. I don't know that I would do that per se. He would be cheap though. He never really got his shot at redemption that he was supposed to get in New Orleans. I know.
Right? And he looked good before he got hurt. I'm not even saying this to be sarcastic. I'm actually serious about this.
Yeah, I agree. It makes sense. But I just don't know about Jameis, man. I don't know. Something's a bit off with Jameis. It doesn't sit right with me.
Rashad Beard, host of the Panther Nation podcast. You can follow them on Twitter at Panther Nation PC, but make sure that you search and subscribe to the Panther Nation podcast on YouTube. What you guys got coming up this week, real quick?
Yeah, so we interviewed Kent Platt, who is the creator of Raz. So we interviewed him last night. Really good. The guy's super smart. So that's on our Patreon right now. Next week, we're going to be setting up free agency. So free agency is coming up. We were taking a look at prospects that fit the Panther systems, whether it's defensively or offensively. Where are the gaps? Where do we need to fill? And I think that's what we're going to be doing next week. So look forward to that. And we'll be live next Tuesday talking about free agency.
Love it. Appreciate you, big dog. See you next week.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you guys.
Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation podcast. The Rob Brown Show's back after this. This is the Fan Upstate.
Enjoy your used car, man.
Soon as that signing happened, I'm like, oh, this hashtag thing is going to bite me square in the ass, isn't it?
Oh, don't think I didn't have fun with that.
Zoe's been giving it to me for 3 days now.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Appreciate you.
All
See
right,
you next
man.
Thursday.
Thanks, guy.
Later on.
By the way, James, I was talking about NFL, not college. College is totally different. So it doesn't count in college.
I was like, what is he talking about? That's got rings.
That's not true. You can get a ring pop, and a ring pop and a wedding ring are two totally different things. A belly button ring and a nose ring. Two different things. A boxing ring and an earring. Two different things.
Hi, I'm Martha Stewart, and I have a question for you. You know that unwelcome guest everyone wishes would just fall already? That's collusion. That's why I got an updated booster designed to help protect against reset.
Me too.
Check eligibility and schedule your updated COVID booster at vaccines.gov. Sponsored by Pfizer and BioNTech.
Lowe's always has more ways for you to save. On top of our everyday low prices, pros can save big when buying in bulk. Or if your purchase is over $1,500, ask about our volume savings program. A pro associate can provide a customized quote. Ask about our volume savings programs today. It always pays to be a pro at Lowe's. While supplies last, minimum purchase required. Selection varies by location. Lowe's reserves the right to limit quantities. Volume discount pricing quotes valid up to 7 days. Visit your local pro desk to learn more and start saving. Offers subject to change may not be available.
Wow.
There's some people that when they walk into the bathroom at the same time as you, you just get nervous.
Not if you're fast.
Like, I don't want to play beat the clock, but when I see a couple of individuals that work here walk into one of the stalls, I'm like, uh-oh.
Well, no. They walked into separate stalls.
No, like a person.
Okay, how you worded that.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah,
That's fair.
Yeah. You just
A person walked into the restroom and then went into a stall. And I was like, it felt like, like every movie where the secret agent has like 10 seconds to cut the right wire on the bomb.
yes.
It's like that.
I see what you did there, bomb. That is, yeah. Okay.
I didn't do it on purpose, but I'm glad I did it. I love that he brought this up when I talked to him, by the way. Kyler Murray's trending. Don't take it off because I haven't talked about why. I will learn my lesson one day.
No, you won't.
Now we just have to talk about him.
If chances are this early in the show, if you bring someone up, you're probably
on there.
It's probably going to be talked about on the show.
Somebody on Reddit floated the idea that more bands should do afternoon concerts. Agree or disagree?
As someone who's older, I prefer an afternoon concert.
It was basically split. The conversation was split down generational lines, right? And we came to the compromise of bands like the Eagles should play like 2:00 concerts.
Yeah, but see, that's demographics.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, it's
but it's
for
a
sure.
demographic conversation.
Yeah,
right?
okay. All right. I didn't know where you were going with it. But if demographically, an older band should play, afternoon, mid evening, maybe. Be done around 9:00, that sort of thing. QC in the first break. But do you get if you're a band that's almost to that demographic, do you just go nuts before you get there because then you know all you're doing is afternoon concerts after this?
No. Our numero dos to the Rob Brown Show starts right now. This is the Fan Upstate. I am Rob Brown, the alpha and the omega of the Fan Upstate. Hashtag Dad Kicks Colonel Grudge. The Sultan of Swag, the Professor of Perfection, the Wizard of Wave.
If people really understood how long I'm willing to wait to get payback on the grudge, you guys have no idea.
Lonzo's got a list of Jericho in the back office, but when he unfurls it, it looks like the list of holds of Jericho just
there you
rolls
go
across the floor.
By the way, I was watching Rich Eisen like yesterday. They have a drop of "You Just Made the List."
Have to, right?
Yes.
It's so good. So good. Ladies and gentlemen, busy hour in this hour of the show, and we want your thoughts. 844 fan.
Aren't we always busy? Why you act like are there like lulls?
No, but there are days that sports just don't give us a lot, right? Right. This week, usually, I would say this week is one of them, right? Like there's usually a little bit of a dead period leading up to the NFL draft, right? Baseball's in spring training. I'm a baseball guy. We're going to talk baseball on this show, but realistically speaking, I understand that baseball's spring training is not something that gets a lot of reaction. Okay? I can dabble in it, but it's not something I can spend a bunch of time on. Right now is usually a bunch of draft speculation, right? And obviously we're going to stick with that because especially with Atlanta and Carolina being the closest two teams and both of them being in really similar situations, right? Atlanta's got to pick a couple above Carolina, both of them in the target market for a quarterback. Both of them, in my opinion, very solid landing spots for Lamar. With Aaron Rodgers now looking like he's off the board. Either he's going to be a Packer or he's going to be a Jet. It feels like at this point. Although, as Lonzo points out, Rodgers might love a swerve just to screw with us a little bit. So we'll see. But it feels like he's a Packer or a Jet. It feels like that domino has effectively fallen. So it's now Lamar and then the draft. Because, by the way, and we talked about this earlier in the week, nobody's talking about Jimmy Garoppolo right now. It feels like the market is soured on Garoppolo.
No, it's not his turn yet. Once Lamar and Aaron are off the board, then it's his turn. Yeah.
That might not be wrong. But my thought would be, don't you want to go with Jimmy? If Jimmy G is on your board, don't you want to go with Garoppolo now? Doesn't it feel like you would be able to get him cheaper and easier now than when he is the top remaining free agent quarterback, right? Because after Rodgers and Jackson come off the board, it's him and Carson Wentz. That's it.
I could use that the analogy that people in the station really love to use for some reason. Is the tens are out there, but you got your 8.5 right over here. You go for the 10s because you know you can get the 8.5, and then when you don't get the 10s, 8.5 still pretty good. Although in the looks department, Jimmy probably is a little bit higher than those other two.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
Jimmy Garoppolo is handsome enough that my girlfriend will tell me how attractive he is. Right? Like if you're going to point out to your significant other,
he's one of those guys. As a guy, you don't get jealous over.
No,
You're like,
pretty.
like, dude,
you're a good looking guy.
Yeah. You have fun.
Did you ever see A Beautiful Mind?
Every day when I look in the mirror. No, no, but I know all about it.
Okay. A Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe playing John Nash was an incredible movie. All right. Ron Howard directed that movie, in case you needed a better reason to see it. A Beautiful Mind was a great movie. And there's this movie came out in 2000, 2001, somewhere in that ballpark.
So a couple of decades ago?
Yeah. Oh, God. Oh. You are doing a number on my youthful vigor this week.
Because I think you've reached a milestone. I'm trying to help you over it. Once I'm done, you'll be good.
Fair enough. So A Beautiful Mind came out in like 2000, 2001, and there's a scene in that movie that stuck with me. And I'm going to go ahead and warn you that it makes me sound like a chauvinist, but it is what it is. There's a scene in that movie where Russell Crowe's character, John Nash, and a bunch of his Ivy League buddies go to a bar, right? And in walks a group of like 5 or 6 women. Now, one of them is like the good-looking gal in the group. And the rest of them are all objectively good-looking women, but one's a bombshell, right? And all the guys collectively want to go talk to her. They're all fighting for number one. They're all fighting for the A-lister out of that group. And Russell Crowe, and it's been years since I've seen the movie, but effectively Russell Crowe grabs them on. He's like, wait. You're all making a mistake here. You're all trying to talk to the same women or the same woman out of this group of women. He says, if you all talk to the one woman, maybe one of you gets her. The rest of you go home empty-handed. He said, this is the play. There's 4 of y'all. There's 4 women in that group who aren't the bombshell. What you should do is all 4 of you should go talk to the 4 women and leave the one alone, leave the bombshell alone. And they're like, why? And he goes, think about it this way. Her standards, being what she is, what she looks like, are going to be unreasonably high. She can have any guy she wants. And these other 4 women, when they go out with her, they're never the first one approached, right? They're never the first one approached. And so therefore, their standards are probably a little bit lower. So if you go talk to the 4 of them and you talk to them before you talk to the bombshell, they're all going to be like, oh, I feel pretty, right? Like these guys picked us before they picked her. Wow. And they're going to have that euphoria moment and your chances go up. So even though none of you leave with the 10, you all leave with a 7 and are guaranteed a better rate of success. And that kind of feels like this situation here. Everybody is waiting to see what happens with Jackson and Rodgers. Now, the Jets are out there telling people right now that after their visit to the Shire, they feel much better about Aaron Rodgers, like they think Rodgers is coming to New York. You got calls of collusion. Rashad Beard even said he thinks there might be something to it. I do as well. But you got everybody with eyes on Lamar Jackson. What happens with him? Is anybody going to make that call? Meanwhile, nobody's talking about Jimmy G. If you are a team that needs a quarterback, and let's say hypothetically, Zoe, and I'm making this up, but let's say that you're sitting outside the top 5 and you need a quarterback. I don't know, maybe number 9 overall on the board.
Just a number you're throwing out there.
Hypothetically,
yeah. Okay.
and nothing
All right.
else.
All right.
We'll say you're hypothetically number 9. You want one of the guys in the draft, but as I've pointed out, sometimes you can't do the deal, not because you don't want to deal, but because the other party doesn't want to do it. Chicago does not want to drop outside of the top 5 or 6. Why? That's where the elite defenders are. So they want to move back to like 5 or 6 at furthest back, still be in the market for an elite defender, but also make some profit off of the number 1 pick. Arizona, same situation. They probably don't want to drop back further than like 3 to 8. Why? Stay in the market for a top defender without moving too far back. Carolina might find themselves in a spot where they have one of 2 options, which is either do what Lonzo has said somewhat metaphorically and sell the farm, but literally give up everything you have to get to 3, which, by the way, leaves you at best with Anthony Richardson or Will Levis. Neither guy, you heard Rashad say it, I've said it. Neither guy is a guy that I'm ready to say is a foundational franchise quarterback moving forward. And you still got to give up a package that we thought 2 months ago is what you'd had to give up to get to number 1, to get to where Chicago is. So Carolina making the call to Jimmy Garoppolo, or, and Rashad thought I was kidding at first, but the call to Jameis Winston might not be the bad move. Why? Because if you call them first, right, you don't talk to the bombshell up front. You go talk to her friend, her very attractive friend, but her friend nonetheless. you got a better chance at landing that. Because what you don't want to do is see Lamar and Aaron Rodgers come off the board. The only free agent quarterback left is Jimmy Garoppolo or Carson Wentz. And now you're calling Garoppolo. Atlanta's calling Garoppolo. Detroit's calling Garoppolo. Seattle's calling Garoppolo. Baltimore might be calling Garoppolo. The Jets might be calling Garoppolo. Right?
I wish you quit throwing Carson Wentz in there. That just makes me nervous.
Yeah, don't love that. Don't love that he's floating out there. Sam Darnold, Volume 3.
How do we know that teams aren't already talking to Garoppolo?
We don't.
Because the media attention is so focused on the big names. Maybe there's some guys just over there talking to him and they're just not paying attention to it.
Looking at this as a former journalist turned analyst turned guy who has to get attention on the internet in order to keep his career, right? The answer is, if somebody drops a report that Carolina called Jimmy Garoppolo, Atlanta called Jimmy Garoppolo, Seattle, Detroit, LA, whoever called Jimmy Garoppolo and made that phone call, that's going to get you attention, right? Because as you pointed out, you're right. All the media attention is laser focused on Lamar and Aaron Rodgers, as it should be. Those are the best two guys available, and it's not even close, right? We're all waiting to see what's next. But it doesn't have to be what's next from those two guys. It can just be what's next. And again, while Jimmy G may not be Aaron Rodgers or Lamar Jackson, he is a guy that's had some success at the league level. We've seen it. We know that. He's gotten there. He's done it. So why wouldn't you make the call now? Put yourself in his ear. Get that conversation going. You're right. We don't know that this hasn't happened. But after the combine, usually those types of things slip out.
Maybe Atlanta and Carolina are out on Lamar because they've been talking to Jimmy.
Maybe. That is a realistic possibility, right? Maybe. Because I can get Jimmy Garoppolo a hell of a lot cheaper than I can get Lamar Jackson. No draft picks needed, right? I can get Jimmy Garoppolo a hell of a lot cheaper than I can get Aaron Rodgers. And Jimmy Garoppolo is a guy that can carry your team. He knows what he is. He's a bridge quarterback. He's literally a bridge quarterback in San Francisco already. So why not go be a bridge quarterback where you're a starter elsewhere, right? You go get Jimmy Garoppolo and tell him, hey, we want you on a one-year deal. We want you under center while we get Levis ready to go or Richardson ready to go. They need a year to learn the game, learn the speed, learn the travel, yada, yada, yada. Garoppolo, you're getting cheaper than all the rest of them. You keep all your, well, you don't keep all your draft picks because you still got to move to 3. What percentage, here you go, Lonzo, what percentage odds do you put that any of the top 4 quarterbacks make it to number 9? 100%, 50%?
I don't know. According to that mock draft you read yesterday, it's going to happen. So, but I would go 5%.
That's ballpark for me too. Ballpark for me too. About a 5%, 10% top chance that any of those four quarterbacks are available at 9. So Carolina's got to make a move, which means it's going to cost them a bunch of draft picks. And if it's going to cost them draft picks, you still got to have, unless you can get to 1, which takes everything, unless you can get to 1, guarantee yourself a guy, you're going to get Richardson or Levis at 3. It feels inevitable. You got to have 1 at 3, which means you got to have somebody as the number 1 QB, because there are very few things over the past 3 weeks that Rashad, Lonzo, and I have all agreed on, right? Last 4 or 5 weeks as we've moved towards the draft, we've been all over the map, the 3 of us. Do you believe, Zoe, that Anthony Richardson or Will Levis are week 1 starters as rookies?
Will they be or should they be?
Yes. Either.
I don't believe.
Let's start with should they be.
Should they be? No. Will they be? Good probability that they will be.
I mean, again, it depends on where they land up. It depends on where they
the old we'll let them sit behind someone doesn't really happen that much anymore.
It just depends on the situation. Now, my belief is that the best situation is they do land somewhere behind a vet. They do get a year. They're not thrown into the fire.
But in those cases, you're not going to, because people are moving up to make or staying where they are in the top 5 to make you a starter. You don't get drafted that high and not come in and start.
I think when we think about guys that are drafted at QB, the last couple of years have been interesting, right? But you think about a guy like Trey Lance. I didn't never feel like, I felt like Trey Lance has possibility, but I never felt like he was a week 1 starter. You know, I'd say even Justin Fields. Like, I felt Justin Fields was very good, but needed some polish before he was ready to be plugged in. Sometimes you just don't have the choice.
Justin Fields on another team would have done better than what he's done now. James is mentioning Alex Smith. I said it's not done that much. Yeah. And I also was talking about top 5. And if I recall, wasn't Mahomes 6. So that left him out of that whole conversation. It's anyone in the top 5. You don't draft them no matter what position. First of all, you're a bad team. Unless you do a bunch of trades, you are a bad team drafting them that high. They're going to start. And the other thing to look at it, if you're those quarterbacks, you know that you're coming into this league and you're going to be a starter. I know everyone wants to be one, but those guys, especially the top 3, know when they're coming in, they're going to be a starter.
See, I look back at let's just look at last year's draft. All right. Let's go back to last year's draft. The first quarterback taken off the board in last year's draft was Kenny Pickett at number 20, right? 20.
And he did start some.
He started some. He was not your week 1 starter.
No, he was not.
But he did start some. And that's what I'm saying. Like, it's a thing that happens, but even traditionally, like, you want guys.
Then someone stepped on his little hands and then he was out or something. I don't remember what his injury was.
You go back the year before
joke.
that.
It doesn't matter.
You go back the year before that, top 3 quarterbacks went 1, 2, and 3. Trevor Lawrence was ready as a rookie. Agree or disagree?
I
think he was. I think he was on a crap team with a crap coach.
He's starting to get there now.
Zach Wilson was taken at number 2, nowhere near ready. Trey Lance was taken at number 3, nowhere near ready. Justin Fields was taken at number 11. Was he ready? Closer than most everybody else.
But it's also a matter of who these guys have on their team. They're drafting a quarterback for a reason.
I don't disagree. Matt Jones, was he ready to be a starter week 1? I don't think he was. I think he got thrown to the wolves. So the point here is teams don't love starting rooks. It's just sometimes they don't have a choice. And that brings me to the point that I'm making.
In your career, would you rather be behind someone or just get thrown in there? I do better when I'm thrown in there. When I have to figure it out on the fly, I do better under pressure. Would you rather be behind someone and just watch them for like 6 months or something before you?
I don't think that's I think it's an apples to oranges comparison.
It's a career.
With being an NFL quarterback. I'll tell you this. If I was hosting a show and every now and then a linebacker kicked down the door to beat me down when I was trying to host the show, I'd probably want to see how other people handled it.
That'd be pretty awesome. It would.
Terry Tate office linebacker.
Bring him in here. He'd never hit us though. We're too cool. There's some other people though might be in trouble. I don't see why it's any different. These guys have been training their entire life. Suddenly you got to learn how to play quarterback. I get you have to acclimate to the speed, because this is the best of the best. I get all that, but they've been playing quarterback since they've been like 6 or been on a football team since then. It isn't like suddenly they discovered football. Although that does happen on occasion. But
I've been hosting sports talk radio for 15, coming up on 16 years now. Last summer, I got the call to host a nationally syndicated show, Bet for the Cycle with Cody Decker, which, by the way, looks like it might be returning this year. I'll have news on that for you probably starting next week.
I was going to throw out a song lyric suddenly last summer, but I didn't think you would actually get that one. So
I don't think I do.
It's a good song.
Okay,
look it up later.
When I got the call last year to host my first nationally syndicated show, Bet for the Cycle, y'all have been hosting radio at that point for 14 going on 15 years. And I was nervous as hell, right? To the point that I'm like, hey, can we do a mock show before we go live? And they're like, why? Just do a show. It's like, yeah, but I national shows are different. It's just a different level.
But they're not, though. This is the first I've heard of you being nervous, and I don't entirely believe it. And maybe what you equate to nerves, I would equate to adrenaline because of who you got to host with. And every week when you talked about that show, you're pumped up. And it didn't seem like nerves. It seems like before you go out on stage to play, before you go into a game to play.
Yeah, I'll make it okay.
That mix of a little bit of nerves, but more adrenaline.
Another comparison. I've been playing in a band 15 years. I've played in front of audiences of 12 to 1,700 people. If you drop me in as the backup guitarist for the Eagles in front of Madison Square Garden, I would need a fresh pair of pants. Why? Because that is different than playing the concerts I've played before.
I don't believe that you're right about that, because you've been down on the field recently at a bunch of things.
Sure.
There's a certain level that you can see, and then you don't see it. You might be able to hear them, hear the crowd roar, but as far as playing on the band, you don't go see those first few rows. You're not going to see anywhere higher than that.
If that is how your brain works for you, good on you. That's a huge asset to have.
Dude,
do you think of a baseball player that's called from the drive to the Red Sox, and the first time he walks on the field at Fenway, he just goes, it's just baseball?
I am scared to death to talk to people face to face a lot of times, but I know there are thousands and thousands of people listening to us right now.
And millions!
Could be. We're working on that.
True. I don't know, man. I feel like even if it only lasts for a snap or
those guys have been told,
or a half of a game, it is a different environment.
CJ Stroud's been told he's the best his entire life, and he believes it, obviously through his confidence.
Fine,
and he's going to come out and play like that.
Tim Tebow was called the best for so many years, and when he got to the league, it went okay at best. It's not even, and I've been breaking it down to like my performance in front of a crowd, but it's not even that. When you're in the SEC, for instance, when you're in the Big Ten, you play defenses that have 2, maybe 3 All-Americans. When you play in the NFL, everybody on the other side of the field is an All-American. It's a different speed. It's a different game with different rules. You do, to some degree, have to relearn the game, and some guys are just better at it than others.
Yeah, and then you get someone like Joe Burrow who just comes in and tears it up.
Absolutely. I'm not saying everybody, but I'm saying if you have to roll the dice, especially if you get stuck, to circle back around to the beginning of this conversation, then we got to take a break. If you take a Richardson or a Levis, I want a guy in front of them.
I agree with you there. I think CJ and Bryce don't need that because of where they played.
But they said that about Tua. They said that about Jalen. His rookie year didn't go great.
Yeah, I didn't.
Took him a year to learn the game.
I didn't agree about Tua, and I thought Jalen got a bad rap.
Maybe, but it took Jalen a year to get there. Took Tua a year and a half to get there, and then he got his brain scrambled, which is not a joke. It's I'm curious to see what he looks like in year 3, right? And that's kind of the point. You want the emergency clause there. I think Jimmy G is a damn good one, and I think Jameis Winston would be a good one, especially Anthony Richardson. If you get Jameis, I want Richardson. If you get Jimmy G, I want Will Levis. Let's take a break. We'll come back here in just a minute. We'll get away from the NFL. Clemson, ACC tournament game number 1 is tonight. They get the Wolfpack, a team they beat by 25 just about a week and a half ago. What do they need to do tonight to move on? What do they need to do in this tournament to move on? Talk about that when we come back on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
QC.
All right, guys, got a live read. Be right back. Don't go anywhere. Hudson said, make sure y'all tag KD on that QC Kinetics read. Oh, man.
He needs something.
KD was set to make his debut for Phoenix last night and then rolled his ankle in warmups. Of course, Devin Booker then went on to put down 40, so it worked out okay.
Did you see it? See the footage of him?
It's-
That. Ow.
I have had ankle issues since high school. Lonzo, I'm not even kidding. I actually feel sympathy for KD because I have reached a point where I have, and this is not even supposed to be funny, rolled my ankle walking. Like you just misstep. You just misfire. If I put too much weight on the outside of my right ankle, it will just roll and I am limping for 2 days.
And then you hurt your neck looking around, making sure no one saw you do it.
I did it at the USC Upstate tailgate a couple of weeks ago. Last stair down into the tailgate, roll the ankle, just walking downstairs. So I'm not even kidding. I got sympathy for KD. Yesterday, it was announced that I'm going to do a real short thing here, and then we'll get Clemson basketball in the next segment. Yesterday announced after Syracuse got bounced from the ACC tournament in their opening game that Jim Boeheim would not return. He has been with Syracuse for 47 years. After a very disappointing season, he is done. 35 of those 47 years, he went to the NCAA tournament, 4 Final Fours, and a natty back in 2003. And Syracuse went ahead and called it for Jim Boeheim. We talked earlier in the week, well, I guess last week, about the passing of Jerry Richardson, and I said Jerry Richardson leaves a very complicated legacy. And any conversation about Jerry Richardson, I think, requires a lot of nuance, right? I don't think you can have the conversation about Jerry Richardson and what he did for football in the Carolinas between Wofford and the Panthers. I don't think you can have that conversation but not leave out the behind the closed door stuff that got him effectively removed as an owner in the NFL. Jim Boeheim is very interesting to talk about as well. Because on one hand, Jim Boeheim is a model of what you want in a coach. In that, Jim Boeheim spent 47 years at his alum, right? Graduated Syracuse as a player, had a very short pro career, came back as an assistant coach, and has been there for almost half a century. There was a story going around that a number of years ago, Rick Pitino and his wife went on a vacation when Pitino worked for Boeheim 30 years ago. Rick Pitino and his wife went on vacation with Jim Boeheim and his wife. And the story that Pitino told said that they were having a conversation about if you could live anywhere in the world, where would you want to live? And Jim Boeheim's answer was, while the others were like Malibu, Paris, whatever, Jim Boeheim's answer was Syracuse. I live where I want to live. I don't want to live anywhere else. Pitino was like, no, dude, you're lying. Boeheim was like, I'm not lying. And he stayed true to that. 47 years. He's never been anywhere but Syracuse, both to live and to coach. But on the flip side, while that is the type of coach you're looking for a program, talk about consistency, 50-ish years of one guy running the program, there's 2 other aspects of it that have to be discussed. The first aspect that has to be discussed is the fact that Boeheim had to give back 101 victories, including multiple tournament victories. Now, he was allowed to keep the banners flying, but he had to give back 101 victories because of violations in the NCAA that he overlooked, or at least was in a position that he should have seen them and stopped them. The other aspect of it is, why did Boeheim get the boot now? Was it because Syracuse has fallen off a little bit? I don't necessarily think so. I think Jim Boeheim got the boot. Remember about 5 weeks ago? Boeheim, who is known throughout his career for having no problem going toe-to-toe, mano-a-mano with reporters, officials, other coaches. He is, Lonzo, I think fair to say, crotchety at points in time. Boeheim basically said that not only does he severely dislike where NIL and the transfer portal is in college football, said that, or in college basketball, said that it's ruining it, but has, for the most part, seemed to refused to adapt to it. Now, Boeheim's not the only coach that has come out and said, I don't like NIL, I don't like the portal, whatever. Dabo said it. Saban said it in football. There's been a lot of college basketball coaches who have said it. But Boeheim, remember, was calling out coaches. Jeff Capel at Pitt. Steve Forbes at Wake Forest. Lauren Agate at Miami, right? Straight up accused them of buying teams. Boeheim has arguably been the only, or at least the most high-profile coach who has not only spoken out against these things, Lonzo, but has refused to participate in them. I got to think Syracuse effectively saw the writing on the wall, right? If Jim Boeheim is going to create a scenario where Syracuse basketball players just cannot succeed away from the court like they can at Pitt, Wake Forest, Miami, inevitably they're going to be left behind no matter how good of a coach Jim Boeheim is. The release of Jim Boeheim was unceremonious at best, right? There was no grand send-off. There was no parade. There was no giant press conference. Basically, Cuse got bounced from the ACC tournament, and then the report came out. Jim Boeheim's not the coach there anymore. To the point that I saw it last night, and I was like, wow. It comes down to, despite the success, despite the importance that Jim Boeheim plays to Syracuse, to ACC basketball, to Big East basketball back in the day, despite the importance that Boeheim has on the landscape of college basketball, the reality is the only thing that matters is what? Success now. Wins now. Tournament appearances now. Final Fours now. Titles now. And because Boeheim not only spoke out against NIL in the portal, but actively refused to participate in them to the point that all of a sudden Syracuse, a team that used to have top 10, top 15 recruiting classes every year, was an 11-win program this year.
I think this is this has happened a few times where they've let a coach hang around too long.
Sure.
And then you get to the point where you don't want to fire him because he's an institution. We've seen it happen in other places too. I don't think the crop of guys we're seeing now, like with
Mike
Shevchesky. I'm going to go. Never mind.
Mike.
Anyway, I just want to quit right now. I've said that name a ton of times. Anyway, with him and Boeheim and some other guys like that have been in basketball for a long time. Are these guys? Are we going to see this again? Because I don't think we're going to. I think once this crop is gone, you're not going to see a guy at one place for 20 years, let alone 46.
Well, I would even go so far as to, you got to think about this. Duke was paying Mike Krzyzewski.
Krzyzewski. There we go.
Duke was paying Mike Krzyzewski as much as any other school was paying their college basketball coach. Roy Williams at North Carolina, same situation. Boeheim was in like the bottom 20 paid coaches because he was willing to do that. In fact, Lonzo, about 15, 20 years ago, Ohio State's athletic director flew to Syracuse, New York with effectively a blank check to get Jim Boeheim to move from Cuse to Columbus and coach the Buckeyes. And Boeheim said he gave him about 16 minutes and then said, I'm out. Don't worry about it. Appreciate the offer, but I want to be a Syracuse guy. Boeheim is not just the exception for being at Syracuse for 47 years, but the fact that there were bigger institutions willing to pay him double, triple, quadruple the money he was making from Syracuse, and he just didn't want it, right? I love being here. You love being here. But Zoe,
except for about 2 minutes ago, yeah, I'm not happy with me right now, and I can't even make fun of myself on the air because I'd have to look up how to spell Krzyzewski.
Let me put it this way: I know how to say it, and I don't know that I could guarantee. K-R.
It starts with a K.
SYZIEWSKI.
Yeah, we'll go with that. That's fine.
I love being here.
Obviously, I love being here.
Yes.
Because I've been here 23 years working towards 24. So yes, I love this place. I love this building. I love this area. So yeah, I love being.
If somebody in Columbia called you right now and offered you quadruple your salary to do radio there, now Lonzo, I can say, because we've had this conversation before, might say no. All right. He's Jim Boeheim. You are Boeheim. If somebody in Columbia called me and offered me 4 times the salary, I'd have to go have a conversation with the boss down the hall. Right?
There was discussion about me driving to Charlotte and producing a certain show from a certain from Charlotte.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
I just no.
Now, the thing about the concept of there won't be any more Jim Boeheim.
Whereas if you get offered 4 times the amount, you're probably going.
Especially if it's like you can still work there, but we just need you to come up here and do this
Well,
whatever.
the same with the other show. Although I think Diesel might be more in my boat.
Sure, maybe.
Where I mean, because he's been here a long time too, and you're happy where you are. I don't have the same ambitions that some other people
and
do.
for the record, let's be abundantly clear. I love the upstate. I am obsessed with the upstate. I go back to Pensacola and I wear my Swamp Rabbits and drive gear all the time. I love the upstate. But if somebody offered me 4 times the salary, you know what I mean?
Then you wouldn't have to have 37 jobs.
Yeah. Told the boss when I got the job, he's like, "Are you here long term?" I'm like, "Hell yeah." The only way I'm out is if somebody gives me an offer that I walk in and I tell it to you and you go, "Congratulations." Right? Like, that's it. That's the only thing getting me up out of here. Jim Boeheim was that guy. He was Lonzo. I only want to be in Syracuse. It's not about the money. It's not about the title, the prestige, the size of the school. I am a Syracuse man and I'll go nowhere else. But the reality is, everybody's got a price. Ha 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 ha. Boeheim is the last of a dying breed. He's the only one that is the breed. That's it. There's nobody else. Mike Krzyzewski was not in Jim Boeheim's class. Krzyzewski was getting paid more than anybody else. Roy Williams was not in Krzyzewski's class. He was getting paid more than anybody else. There are no other Jim Boeheims. But to have that conversation, the admirable qualities about Boeheim, I think you have to have the nuance of the conversation to talk about the lost wins because of multiple NCAA infractions that happened on his watch. I think you have to have the discussion about the fact that while Jim Boeheim bled orange, wanted nothing to do with anybody else but Cuse, they had to let him go despite his loyalty to the program because he was going to cost them money, right? Lonzo is dedicated to the company and the building. But if Lonzo came in here and had 8 or 9, 10 mistakes per show, was firing commercials mid-segment, was not dumping me when I said bad words on the air, right? Was breaking equipment every single day. At some point, despite Lonzo's immense loyalty to the station, they'd have to let him go because you're costing us more money than your loyalty's worth, right? That's Jim Boeheim. Because Boeheim refused to adapt to what the modern era of college basketball is, a modern era in which players are empowered within the sport. Jim Boeheim had to get left behind. This wasn't Jim Boeheim's decision. He said 6 weeks ago when this conversation fired up, my future is whatever Syracuse wants it to be. Company man till the end. I am here as long as the AD and the president and the school want me to be here. And he said that because he knew this writing was on the wall. And he didn't want it to be believed that Boeheim walked away from Syracuse. He wanted it known Syracuse walked away from Boeheim. But they walked away from Boeheim for a very good reason. Because the way he wanted to run his program was going to get him left behind. And Syracuse, the Orange, you know, the school he's been at 47 years and brought to the tournament 35 of them, just got bounced round 1 of the ACC tournament in a year in which the conference was the worst it has been in decades. That's the conversation. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Forgot my.
Well, do you want to close it out? Because I got to, yeah, that way you can
You're
bring
on
it
that
back.
screen, don't go anywhere. Bring us back. All right, dudes and dudettes, we're back.
One thing you can say about me is I am adaptive.
Though we have, not sent our scale pictures to each other the last couple of Sundays, predominantly because the last couple of Sundays have sucked for yours truly. I am back under 350 for the first time, or 250 for the first time in a very long time. I really want a KFC double decker.
Yeah, it looks. I mean, I'm willing to do it for that too.
Yeah,
I mean, so you can play a beta for a game if you eat KFC double decker, which I've had before. I mean, they're pretty good. They are a lot, but I think it's just you got to buy it. You don't necessarily have to eat it. I mean, are they going to watch you eat it?
There's no chance I'm buying it.
Well, yeah, I mean,
maybe I get one on the way in for Saturday's show, and
oh, that's fine.
Give the review of it.
That's fine.
I got to get my Fuddruckers review still.
You do. That. We haven't posted pictures either.
So the KFC double decker sandwich was just reintroduced into my life by the great one. The double decker sandwich is a cheese sandwich, except instead of bread, it's 2 fried chicken breast as the bun. So it's 2 fried chicken breast as the buns with cheese in the middle. I don't know what else is on it.
I can't remember. I had one the first time that they introduced it, but right now, if you do that, you get to play Diablo 4 beta, which is next weekend, for free, supposedly. I don't know how they do it, but
I'm assuming you probably get like a code with it or something.
Yeah, that's what I would guess, that you would get a code. Well worth it for the code. You get good chicken and you get to play what's going to turn out to be probably a pretty good game. So
hope so. What I'm going to say here is I'm sitting in on the Upstate Pulse before we play Ray D and Dio on Saturday night, which make sure you like and subscribe to the Upstate Pulse on Twitch and Facebook to watch and participate in Ray D and Dio. Anyway, so Rob finally got back under 250 for the first time in a hot minute, right? And there's a part of me that's like, all right, we're going to New York next Thursday. I'm taking the lady Fran up to New York City. We're going to see a Broadway play. And my goal was to like get back down to where I can fit into one of my old suits for the play, which is going to require me to be down to about 240, 235, which means I've given myself a week from today to drop 10 more pounds. I'm not going to get there, but I'm pushing for it.
We've got some people who could let that thing out a little bit for you if you needed to.
And I might have to. I may be taking it to a tailor Monday. But there is absolutely a chunk of me that wants to get a double-decker sandwich before the show on Saturday and give a review because I've not had one yet.
Yeah, well, you can work it out, afterwards. The next day. Just get up and walk around the block a couple times.
I'm not going to do that. We both know that. All right. That's 2 hours in the book. Hudson says, tell me about this. I just did. It's 2 fried chicken breast instead of bread with cheese in the middle. Now, as Lonzo pointed out when I said that seems like a lot, how many times do you sit down and just eat a piece of fried chicken? And the answer is very clearly never.
No, I don't. How many people go, I would like the one-piece meal. You know why you don't? Because there isn't one. There isn't one. There's no one-piece meal. So, I mean,
Fair enough. All right, coming up in the third hour of the show, we will open with Clemson Shooty Hoops. Why? Because at 9:30 tonight, they tip off their first game in the ACC tournament. They are the 3 seed. Clemson right now squarely on the bubble. In fact, they have, based on the results of other conference tournaments, CBS Sports has dropped Clemson out of the current 68. Clemson is squarely on the bubble. Good news, towards the top middle of the bubble. Bad news, on the bubble. When we come back here in just a minute, I will tell you what it is that I believe Clemson needs to do over the next 2 nights if they want to make it to March. And I will give you some numbers as to why I think Brad Brownell's team has the opportunity to pull it off. They have got a resume. I'm going to give it to you and then explain to you why they still have to prove themselves. We'll also break down tonight's Clemson NC State game and set you up with a win for who they would face in the semifinals tomorrow night if they get by the Pack tonight. Then at 11:20, Fight Club with the great one. Lonzo catches us up on all things combat sports on the only station that talks combat sports in the upstate. This is the Fan Upstate.
I hope he takes the job and trolls New York media every single day. And they don't get what he's doing until he retires.
Colgate went third consecutive Patriot League bid last night, while Montana State repeated the Big Sky, and Texas A&M Corpus Christi won the Southland bid for the second straight year. Mark Adams stepping down as Texas Tech head coach in the wake of getting suspended for a racially insensitive remark about his team recently, and Shohei Ohtani threw 4 scoreless at a 2-1 double as Japan debuted the World Baseball Classic with an 8-1 win over China in Tokyo. I'm Andrew Rose.
Have a take, the Jim Rome Show. Weekday afternoons on CBS Sports Radio. Finding great people to hire is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's pretty difficult, right? Well, ZipRecruiter has mastered finding a needle in a haystack, so they take it to the next level. They make hiring so simple that it's like finding a needle.
You seen Chris today?
And that's why you should try
He is not here.
That would be why I haven't seen him.
Correct.
Here's what it's like to use ZipRecruiter. They have so many qualified candidates that it's easier to find the right ones for your roles. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's a lot of news. So how do they do it? ZipRecruiter's powerful technology sends you candidates who are a great match for your job, and you can even invite your top choices to apply. So if you want less hay and more needles, head to ZipRecruiter.
And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. At ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
If you own a small business, you know the value of time. GetRefunds.com does too. That's why they've made it easy, no matter how busy you are, to apply for the Employee Retention Credit, or ERC. Go to refunds.com to get started, and in less than 8 minutes, see if your business qualifies for ERC assistance. Your business may be eligible for a payroll tax refund of up to $26,000 per employee kept on payroll during COVID-19. GetRefunds.com has already helped clients claim over $3 billion in payroll tax refunds through the ERC, and they may be able to help your business too. There's no upfront charge either. They don't get paid until your business gets its refund. Many businesses believe they will qualify based on incomplete or outdated information. So don't let this opportunity pass you by, because this payroll tax refund is only available for a limited time. Go to GetRefunds.com. That's GetRefunds.com.
Hey, it's Matt 99, the Rise Guys.
We got big news about grabbing them cans.
Grab our cans. That's right. Delicious Rise Guys P1 Lager now available.
It's available in cans at select Spence locations.
Stock up for your next get-together. Rise Guys P1 Lager, smooth and easy drinking.
Brewed with special quality ingredients by our friends down in Steel Hands Brewing.
Don't forget, it's also on tap at 1885 Tap Room, 148 East Church Street in Simpsonville.
And Farmhouse Tacos, 164 South Main Street in Travelers Rest. Stay updated at RiseGuysP1Lager.com and ask for it by name.
Cameron and I had a discussion the other day. Maybe you can help me with this. What is a street taco? Can you have street tacos if it's not made on the street?
Yes.
That was what I said also. And he disagreed. And then I pointed out a couple restaurants where I believe I saw him eat street tacos.
Street tacos are traditionally.
So what does it make it? What makes it a street taco?
They are traditionally smaller, and you get multiple of them at a time. And the point of that is that you can get different tacos.
Right.
You can get like 4 different ones.
Oh,
that
speaking
are-
of which, remind me later. New place down the road.
Okay.
Dude, it is so good.
What is it? What place?
I forget the name of it. I know where it is. It's like Oh, I think it's like tacos and margaritas is what it's called. I think
That's the name of it?
I believe so.
YOLO,
Yes.
let's go.
It was really good. I'm not ignoring you, Kevin. I have business. It used to be something else and it closed down. We were going somewhere else Saturday and it's like the place we were going to had a shortage of cooks again. It's like, okay, let's go over here and try this. And the chips are really thick. I mean, not so thick but thick enough that they don't break, and your guac and all that kind of stuff. The tacos were really, really good. I was shocked because I didn't think it was going to be as good as it was.
So I am a huge chips and salsa guy. I adore chips. I will go to Mexican for the chips and salsa, and then I'm just happen to be eating Mexican. But like, I looked the other day at a bag of tortilla chips, and the recommended serving is 11 chips.
Yeah.
Never happened. So I had a buddy of mine who's in the weight loss game. He told me that one thing you can do, and it takes extra work to do it, but he said it's well worth it, is you can take squash, really thinly slice it, like the size of a tortilla chip, sprinkle it with taco seasoning, and then bake them. And he said, when you take it out, he goes, I swear to you, it's a tortilla chip. It tastes like it. It has the same texture, the same feel to it. And when you eat it with salsa, you cannot tell.
How many less calories are you talking now?
He goes, you can eat roughly 60 squash chips for every 10 tortilla chips.
Wow. Someone did put the intro in there. Imagine that. It's one of the mistakes you were talking about earlier. I'm way out the door. I'm going to blame it on Kevin. There. Happy, Kevin?
The third, the best, the final, the money hour of the Rob Brown Show goes now. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Rob Brown Show. This is the Fan Upstate. Howdy, y'all. Welcome in. Happy Thursday. Good to be with you. I am Rob, the great one, Lonzo, on the other side of the metaphorical glass this AM. Should you like to be of the radio broadcast today? There are multiple simple ways to do it. Hit us up on the phone lines at 844-FAN phone. That's 844-326-3663. 844-326-3663. That'll get you on the air with Lonzo. And also, I'm here. You can text us on the text line at 71307. 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N. FAN, F-A-N. We'll read them on the air. You can tweet us at The Rob Brown Show, at Lonzo on Word, W-O-R-D, or tweet us all at The Fan Upstate. We, ladies and gentlemen, have a goal of getting our Twitter account to 9K followers. We are inside of the final 800 to get there. So if you have not done so already, and if you don't mind, please hit us up at The Fan Upstate on Twitter, at The Fan Upstate on Twitter. We are all trying to be more active on that Twitter account moving forward, especially when we are at live events. As I was this past Sunday at the South Carolina SEC Championship game at the Well, as I was last Saturday when Clemson and South Carolina played a hardball game at Fluor Field, as I was last night when South Carolina and SC Upstate played a game at Fluor Field, as I will be tonight when the Greenville Swamp Rabbits make their return back to the Well. But a couple of weeks since we had some hometown hockey. We get it tonight and tomorrow as the Bits play a double homestand tonight and tomorrow at the Well. If you're going to be there, come see me. Come say hi. I'd love the chance to meet you. Want to get to 9K followers by summertime. So if you don't mind, hit us up at the Fan Upstate. We're working on it. We'd love to have you as part of the group. Hurricane Jeff says, how far in the tournament do you think the Hurricanes can go? Have a great day, guys. ACC tournament, Miami's good enough to win it. Here's the problem you bump into. Virginia is very good and capable of beating Miami. Not that they'll be a favorite, but capable of it. You've got Duke as the 4 seed right up there with you. All right. That Duke team has played their best basketball as of late. You caught Duke earlier in the regular season. They're playing better ball now. They can get you in the semis, right? But the biggest threat of all, and this is what I've said about Clemson down on the bottom part of the bracket, the biggest problem that you have right now is the 2 teams in the bottom of the bracket where Miami would meet you in the final. Virginia, North Carolina. Those 2 teams are both very good. And you go, hold up, wait a minute, Roberto. I don't know why I called myself that.
Yeah, that was a bad move because now you're going to get a bunch of Robertos.
Of the things you could call me, that's way not towards the bottom of the list.
We were talking tacos earlier.
We were. That's
so
where it comes from.
That's where it comes from. Yes.
We were talking Mexican food during the break, of which Rob Brown is a huge fan. Roberto is a huge fan. Anyway, Virginia, North Carolina is the single most interesting game in this tournament as far as I am concerned. The bracket has them matched up. The bracket has Virginia and UNC getting after it tonight at 7 p.m. That is the game before Clemson and NC State at 9:30. North Carolina sniped Boston College last night. Boston College, of course, coming off of a close one against Louisville. They end up getting rocked by the Tar Heels. And that is exactly the concern I have for Clemson. It's exactly the concern I would have if I was a Hurricane fan, should they get by Duke. And don't forget, I mean, we got Duke playing 2:30 today. Miami gets going today at noon. Right after the game is over, Miami takes on Wake Forest. I'll be watching that in the office. Then you got Duke and Pitt at 2:30. That's an interesting one, Duke and Pitt, because Jeff Capel's Pittsburgh team is very good, but Duke's playing their best ball. I suspect we're going to get number 1 Miami versus number 4 Duke in the semifinal on the top of the bracket. Bottom half of the bracket, very interesting. Virginia plays North Carolina at 7. I have said 3 times this week, as I've mentioned a number of times, I feel like I've beaten the dead horse into pace and found a new dead horse to beat in its place. North Carolina brought back 4 starters from a team that not only made the Final Four last year, but lost the Natty in the final. And then had what I think is fair to be described as the single most disappointing college basketball season of any team in the country this year. North Carolina is on a tear right now, as was evidenced by the way they beat BC last night. Virginia, on the other hand, might be, despite the seeding as the 2 seed, the best team in the ACC this year. Virginia, Miami, Duke. 3 locks to make the tournament. Virginia might be the best of the 3. My question is going to be, 7 o'clock tonight, this game is a must-watch. I will be at the Bits game. I will have this game on my phone while I'm working. This game is going to be interesting because Virginia is trying to do a couple of things. Number 1, they love to win the ACC tournament, carry that momentum and potentially a slightly higher seed into March. North Carolina is on the bubble. If Carolina loses to Virginia tonight, they will not make March Madness. Could there be a more disappointing outcome for a team that was a national championship finalist last year, lost to an incredible Rock Chalk Jayhawk team? Could there be a more disappointing finish to the season for North Carolina than not even making the tournament? Forget not getting to the Final Four, not making the tournament as a whole. The answer is no. Virginia, North Carolina tonight is the game of the 20. Then you got Clemson and NC State. This game is wildly interesting to me as well. It's not going to be, I don't think, as good of a game as Virginia, North Carolina. But I think it's got the potential to be the most interesting game in the tournament. Clemson needs, and the more I've thought about it, the more I'm comfortable saying it. Clemson has to win 2 to get in. They do not have to win the ACC. And that's good news. That's great news, actually. Because as long as Clemson has been in the ACC, under Brad Brownell, Clemson teams are 6-11 all-time in ACC tournament games. and they have never won back-to-back games in a single ACC tournament.
So if tonight Clemson were to lose, it would also maybe take them out of the NCAA tournament.
Oh, if Clemson loses tonight, they are out of the NCAA tournament.
Does that mean that we don't talk Clemson again except for spring football ever until next year?
I think if Clemson loses tonight, as much as it kind of feels tired, I feel like you become fully justified in asking about the future of Brad Brownell.
Well,
Clemson's team is too good to not make this tournament.
you mean like last year and the year before and the year before?
Pretty much. I mean, at least every year since I've been here, which I just passed the 3-year mark last week, right? So every season I have been here, this has been the discussion. And I've had a number of Clemson fans tell me, yeah, I'm ready for him to go. I've had one or two that have been like, you know what, I feel like he puts together a good team every year and he's just got to find the finishing touch. If we had a G.G. Jackson, we'd get there, right? We'll find out. But Brad Brownell's squads have never won back-to-back games in a single ACC tournament, and that's per Clemson, by the way, and they must do it this year if they want to make March. And as far as I'm concerned, if Brad Brownell is going to get there, right? If he's going to get there, he's got to do it this year. He's got to win too. Joe from Boiling Springs just said Clemson was in the finals of the ACC tournament in 2020 when COVID stopped it. Yes, I know. They were set to play Florida State. I was sitting in that chair right there. They preempted my show, which at the time was noon to 3. They were set to play that game. They preempted a show, and COVID canceled it. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you, they were set, and this is not a shot at Clemson. This is more disappointment for FSU. Florida State was the Final Four team that year. Florida State had, 2 lottery picks and 4 first-rounders? Florida State was going to win that game. They were like a 14.5-point favorite or something stupid. I don't remember exactly, but it was ridiculous for a tournament championship. But that's what I'm saying. He's put together teams that are good enough to get there, and they just haven't. Now he's got to win back-to-back. If he wins, let me put it this way. So if he wins back-to-back games and is able to take out NC State tonight and the winner of Virginia, North Carolina, that will provide him with a couple of things. Number one, it would add yet another Q1 victory. A quad 1 victory would be huge for them. I did get asked earlier in the show to explain what the quadrants are, right? Because you hear that all college basketball season. Quad 1, 2, 3, and 4 victories and losses. A quad 1 victory is a home game versus an RPI team ranked in the top 30, a neutral game against an RPI team in the top 50, or an away game against an RPI team in the top 75. A quad 2 game is a home game versus a team 31-75 in the RPI, a neutral game 51-100 in the RPI, or an away game 76-135 in the RPI. A quadrant 3 game is a home game versus an RPI 76-160, a neutral game versus an RPI 101-200, or an away game versus RPI 136-240. And a quadrant 4 game is a home versus a 161 plus RPI, neutral versus 201 RPI, or away versus 241 plus RPI. Okay? So quad games are not the biggest indicator in whether a team can make it to March, as is evidenced by the fact that Clemson has 4 quadrant 1 wins. There's a couple of teams that are already qualified that don't have 4 quad 1 wins. Clemson has 4 of them. Clemson is 4-0 against teams considered last 4 buys by ESPN with an average margin of plus 11.8 points per game or points per win. Of the 16 teams that ESPN currently has on the bubble, Clemson has the highest winning percentage and second most wins against net quad 1 teams. They are 4-3 against quad 1 teams. 3 of those 4 wins were on the road. They are the second best team versus quad 1 teams of the teams on the bubble. Clemson won 9 ACC games by double digits. That is the most in the conference. And according to CBBAnalytics.com, Clemson is 13th nationally in net rating against quad 1 teams. It's a hell of a resume. A hell of a resume. But I think I described Brad Bradell's teams either Monday this week or Friday last week, I don't remember, as consistently inconsistent. Tonight is a wonderful opportunity. An opportunity. I can do this. It is a wonderful opportunity this evening for Brad Brownell to get rid of the inconsistent part of the label that he has acquired at Clemson. He has built a very good team. He has built a team that has already shown you they are capable of competing with teams that are considered tournament favorites this year, because he's done it. But he's also built a team that loses quad 4 games. Can't happen. South Carolina, Loyola Chicago, Louisville, Boston College, those games can't be lost. So now, because you lost games you should not have lost, now you have to go out there. And you have to get it done. You have to get it done. By the way, for Joe from Boiling Springs, who said, I'm saying he had to have gone back-to-back games to get to ACC finals is what I'm referring to. Remember, that game against Florida State that got canceled, you want to know why that game preempted my show, Joe? The ACC championship game is played on Saturday. That game was a Thursday game that got preempted. That game was preempted because it was the ACC quarterfinals. Clemson beat Miami 69-64 in the second round. They had a first round bye because they were the 8th seed in 2020. They beat Miami 69-64 in the second round on a Wednesday. They were slated to play Florida State in the quarterfinals on a Thursday. But because COVID canceled that game quite literally minutes before it was supposed to be played, that was the day. In fact, I can remember that game. That's like I said, I was sitting right over here. We were going to go live. I was going to live tweet that game. I was going to cover that game. In fact, we were even considering breaking in to do some local analysis during breaks for our local breaks that day. But it got canceled. It was not the ACC championship game. Florida State was given the ACC championship by way of being the ACC regular season winner. They were the 1 seed. And because you still had FSU v. Clemson, which teams were warming up when the ACC canceled that game, you were supposed to follow that up with Duke versus NC State, Virginia versus Notre Dame, and Louisville versus Syracuse. And FSU Clemson got canceled. The rest of the games got canceled after that. Clemson had beat Miami. They did not win back-to-back games at that point. They had won the second round game, got the bye in the first round, won the second round, were set to play FSU in the third round, the quarterfinals, and it got canceled. So no, Brad Brownell has yet to win back-to-back ACC tournament games. He must do it this year to go dancing. He must do it this year to shed the label of inconsistency. Can they do it against NC State? As mentioned, yes. They already have. We talked about their rundown yesterday. We talked about the last time that they squared up with the Wolfpack. You only got to go back about 2 weeks when they beat them by 25 in Raleigh. They know they can win this game. They beat the hell out of NC State 2 weeks ago. Now you're going to get a better game. You're going to better get, and NC State is bent on revenge right now. This game is one, and this is what I've said. Why is it Clemson has to win 2? Because they need to win one they're supposed to win. That's tonight against NC State. And they have to win one they're not supposed to win. That's tomorrow against Virginia or North Carolina. If they win both of those games, and by the way, seeding says they should beat North Carolina. Talent on paper, North Carolina should win that game. If they win one they're supposed to win tonight, and then they break the inconsistency by winning one they're not supposed to win tomorrow, Clemson will be a tournament team, and Brad Brownell feels like he can breathe a little bit. But if he drops one of the two, even if he wins tonight and gets bounced tomorrow, that conversation still exists because Clemson will not be playing in March. Let's take a break. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Thursday. You know what that means. Coming up next, Fight Club with Lonzo. He will catch us up on all things combat sports when we return on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate.
So the restaurant I was talking about is called Condado.
Condado.
Yes. There used to be a Tex-Mex restaurant there, and it went out of business. And
now it's just the Mex.
Yes. I guess I just didn't see the signage when I was in there. I did see the tacos and margaritas thing and thought, man, Rob would probably like this place. I literally thought that. I'm not joking.
Playing in the SoCon Conference Championship game presented by Ingles against Chattanooga. The team that ripped their hearts out a year ago, and this time the guys won 88-79. The first trip to the dance in 43 years since 1980. I was 2 years old. Diesel wasn't even born. You know, folks, are there any moments in sports that bring you back to that childlike level of enthusiasm, that childlike level of total excitement and emotion? Last night did that for me. I am so darn proud of these guys. You know, our audience voted that there would be one team from South Carolina that made the dance, and it looks like it just might be Furman. And don't count them out. They just might have a run in them as well. I'm Mark Ryan.
All Sides with Mark Ryan this afternoon, 3 to 7 on The Fan Upstate. 97.7 FM Greenville, 97.1 FM Spartanburg, and on the Odyssey app.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost, month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can get almost nothing for covered auto repairs.
Hudson.
One thing they did have there that I did not try is pineapple salsa. Have you ever had that?
Big
before?
fan. Big fan. The sweet of the pineapple with the little salty. Big fan.
So it has no kick to it at all, though? It's just,
Can.
get it? Okay.
It's like any other salsa. You can pepper it up if you want, but pineapple salsa is delightful. Tell you what I'm not a fan of. I'm not a guacamole guy.
Weird.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, it has no calories. You can eat all
I
the
know.
guac you want.
I
so,
understand.
yeah.
The problem I have is that all the things I love are bad for me.
Hey, Keegan, what's up?
Ah, look who showed up. What's up, big dog?
Hey, Keegan is busy, I'm
Keegan's
sure.
here for therapy because the Pelicans just found out today that Zion Williamson is at least 2 more weeks away from coming back as we plummet down the Western Conference rankings. And last night, Brandon Ingram sprained his ankle. So we are going to miss the playoffs. We were number 1 in the West 6 weeks ago, and we're going to miss the playoffs. So it's just time for me and Keegan's group therapy. That's all.
Located off exit 27 in Anderson at the intersection of Ryobi and Highway 81. Credit card only, no cash accepted. Did you know that Ingles sells more organics than any other store? Or that they run out of dairy? Or that they only serve USDA choice and prime meat? Did you know that they have
Yes, you do. You do, Keegan.
Hashtag used cars.
Or that they donate 3,956 meals a day to local food banks? Well, now you do. It's all in the bag. Ingles, low prices, love the savings.
Sponsored by InvisibleFence.com. Over the last 50 years, Invisible Fence brand has protected over 3 million pets. Their certified training leads to a 99% success rate, and they even offer a 1-year money-back guarantee. Not only is your pet secure, so is your investment. Visit InvisibleFence.com to learn more.
I want a club sandwich. I don't know why.
I'm a big fan of the club sandwich.
I love club sandwiches. You know what? I just changed my mind.
But what do you do if the club sandwich has crispy bacon on it?
Eat it nonetheless.
Okay. All right.
Make it one more time. Make it abundantly clear. I'm I will eat crispy bacon. It's just
because
not my
most
preferred
things
method
on
of
a
bacon.
most things on a club sandwich are crispy. The bread, everything, usually. Welcome into the Fight Club, where I have 10 things on the list, and we'll get to like 3, maybe.
I'll keep my mouth shut this time.
No.
Let's do this.
The whole point is back and forth. I mean, that's what we're supposed to do here.
Let's do this.
All right, I got to start off with something. I'm not the guy who, I know I'm the it's a work guy. All right, so I am that guy. Never mind. I am the guy. It's a work. But
Self-recognition is important.
But it's important, especially today above all days when I can't say Shashevsky. There we go. And it was a struggle there too. I almost didn't say it again. So had a choice last weekend. Do I buy the AEW pay-per-view, which I should have, or do I buy the UFC pay-per-view? Because I have a thing. I want to see John Jones lose. Whatever reason you put the money down for the UFC, they don't care. You're putting the money down to watch something. And so you're either a face or you're a heel, and John Jones is the ultimate heel in the UFC, and I want to see that heel go down. So paid the money watching first. One of my favorite fighters of all time, Valentina, goes down. Legitimate loss. Her opponent got on her back and choked her out. I mean, but you could see that she may be starting to lose a step, or as they talked about in the fight, that maybe people are starting to catch up. You remember when Ronda Rousey no one came close to Ronda Rousey. And then suddenly you could see
home kick her face off.
You can see the contenders starting to creep up. The same thing's happening with Valentina, which is good for the sport, bad for the person who's dominant, because that means they're finally getting some competition. So I was disappointed in that. That was a co-main event. So I'm already down. And then here comes John Jones, sturdy John Jones, which we expected. I mean, you move up to heavyweight, you got to put some pounds on. I mean, it's not like when Cormier moved up to heavyweight, it was like, whoa, dude, been eating. But John Jones has been too. Going up against Cyril Gane, we got all the buildup, everything for this fight, and then boom, it's done. And Gane just didn't even put up a fight at all. And it reminded me of back in the day when people would put down the money to watch Mike Tyson fight, but there's a difference. Mike Tyson hits you and you go out, you should. You watch this fight, this whole thing looks like it's like a WWE, AEW. The writers sat down and we're going to make John Jones champion. Hasn't fought in the heavyweights, hasn't fought for 3 years when you got other guys who are hungry out there fighting, but we're going to set this up for John Jones. And we're not going to put him up against someone who might actually have a shot at beating him like Stipe Miocic. No, we're going to put him up against Cyril Gane. He goes in and Cyril Gane just he CM Punk'd it. He did. He CM Punk'd it. I mean, not nearly as flashy because John Jones didn't have to beat his face in like what happened to Phil, which I was pretty happy about. But still, although I was embarrassed for Phil Brooks when he did that. Cyril Gane just took a payday. I hate doing that. He just took a payday. This is what they wanted. Now they've got the villain on top. And you could see when they interviewed Stipe Miocic afterwards, and when they showed him in the crowd, you could see the look on his face like, really? They're actually doing this. But you know what? They got a chance to rectify it because Stipe gets to go up against John Jones, allegedly, in July. Unless something happens and John gets into trouble or there's contract disputes or something, and suddenly he can't fight the guy that he should have been fighting for the vacant championship in the first place, and that was Stipe Miocic. I think this thing was fixed. I never thought that before in the UFC until now. And it really bothered me. And Rob, have you ever asked for your money back after a pay-per-view? I mean, you put the money down. You take the risk. But have you ever thought about doing it? Because the first thing I said was I want my money back, and I know I can't get it back.
So before I answer that, let me say this.
Yes, I'm heated about this.
I know, I can tell. Let me say, you and I have gone back and forth about UFC predominantly, boxing to some degree. This is exactly the reason that I dislike the direction, and we'll keep it UFC related for now. Exactly why I dislike the reason that UFC has begun to approach WWE levels of the entertainment is more important than the sport, right? Because what ends up happening is the mentality of fans shifts away from, I want to watch two of the best fighters in the world, because everybody signed to a UFC contract is one of the best fighters in the world, right? Even the losers would show up in your hometown and run your indie tournament, no problem. The mentality of fans shifts away from, I want to watch two of the best fighters in the world with the understanding that one of them might win the fight outright quickly. And it changes to, I want to be entertained, right? I want to be entertained by great fighters fighting. And I come in with the recognition that sometimes you're going to have a guy who just straight up is better than the other guy and wins the fight quickly. But when the mentality shifts to, I want to be entertained, you end up creating a situation where you feel like every championship fight should go 5 rounds and end with the last second KO because that's the most entertaining way for a fight to end. This fight did something for me. Now, I'm not a Bones Jones guy. I was back in the day because I saw him as a prodigy. But obviously, because of the way that he acts outside of the octagon, he's lost me as a fan, as a person. But I watched that fight. And I told Lonzo when I watched it, when they showed John Jones for the first time, I didn't recognize him at first. Like it took my brain a second to go, oh, damn, that is John. He just thick with 2 C's now, right? That fight went through. And I went, oh, he still got it. He's still exceptionally
Does he
good.
though? Does he? So the best
were,
shot that Cyril Gahn had was when he cup checked him in the first minute.
And
that was it.
What if I told you that's because that's how good John Jones is?
He's not.
You don't have to like him. No. You say that.
The last couple fights he had went to the wire because he couldn't put those guys away.
Right.
And I think he moved up because he knew he was going to go down at light heavyweight.
Maybe
so he went up where he thought it would be easier competition. If he had fought a couple more fights and then got to fight for the championship, I wouldn't be as upset. The fact that this was handed to him, and what does that say to all these contenders? What does it say to all the contenders?
It says you better get your ass ready for John Jones.
No, it doesn't.
He's still the dude.
No, it doesn't. It says as much work as you put in, this guy can be off 3 years. We're going to bring him in and give him your spot.
Okay, then here's the deal. Go take it from him.
Oh, it's going to happen.
Okay, and listen, if he comes out against Stipe Miocic and he gets his face kicked off like Ronda Rousey did, then so be it. Then we can go, okay, it was a fraud. But John Jones just came out against the number 1 heavyweight right now, because Francis Ngannou's not there anymore. Came out against UFC's number 1 heavyweight.
By the way, Ngannou would have destroyed him.
Maybe so.
Yes, he would.
But Ngannou's not there, so you can't book fantasy fights, right? He came out and he beat their number 1 inside of 4 minutes in the opening round. Now, I'm not saying that Stipe won't come in and beat John Jones bloody. He very well might. But what I can say is, as a guy who is not a Jones fan, I just did watch that fight. 20 minutes ago, I watched that fight to get ready for this segment. He dominated the guy who was the number 1 for the moment, right? And now he's going to get Stipe, and we're going to get a much better view about what John Jones really is as a heavyweight. But the problem is, and I'm not just talking about Lonzo, because I've got plenty of UFC friends in my circle who are in the same boat. When you start looking at it as professional wrestling instead of a true, honest, good, legit combat sport that only depends on rankings and not who's over and who's organically over and who's a face and who's a heel, when you just look at it as fighter A beats fighter B, he moves up, he loses, he moves down. John Jones just came out, took the best the UFC had currently ranked at number 1 in heavyweight, beat the hell out of him quickly, and now we move on. I did not look to be like entertained with pyro and music in a 5-round fight. I looked to see who's the better fighter, and the answer was on Saturday night, John freaking Jones.
See, you're making it sound like, wow, what a beatdown. But the thing is, Cyril Gahn didn't show up. That's the thing.
Is that John Jones' fault?
If there's money who exchanges hands and you're told not to show up, or you match somebody on purpose because you know this is the champion you want. And
do you have any evidence of that other than you didn't like the fight? No. You don't. Nobody else does. Ariel Helwani doesn't have that evidence. Nobody has. If
It's
you
a bad
wanna-
look. It's a bad look, Rob.
No,
It's
no,
just it's a very bad
because
look
you
for.
don't like how the fight turned out. You decide it's a conspiracy.
It's a bad look for a company that was on the rise for a while, and now they've had some controversy lately, especially with Dana White and some other things. This is a bad look for them. It's how everything was set up. Again, if John Jones comes out and fights Cyril Gahn, but it's not for the championship, and this happens, no big deal. The fact that it's because then obviously, yeah, he just wasn't ready for him. But he went out and didn't try. He didn't try at all.
Part of the entertainment value of a company like this is to have a champion. You just got to have a champion, right? Like our biggest thing right now, our biggest complaint right now in wrestling is what? Monday Night Raw doesn't have a champion right now. So their heavyweight bout is never going to be for a heavyweight championship, and therefore it loses some steam that it might have because both the belts are elsewhere. They got to have somebody put the belt on. And John Jones, whether you like it or not, you're the guy that's arguing about entertainment here. Having the belt on John Jones, whether he gets his ass kicked in his next fight or not, having the belt on him is a polarizing topic. Therefore, it's engaging. Therefore, it's entertaining. Like it or not, how you feel about something being compelling, being good or bad is irrelevant if it is compelling. We've had this fight about everything in sports for a while now. Having the belt on John Jones is compelling. He could have gone out and lost to Cyril Gahn. Absolutely could have lost that fight. And we would be in here talking about, okay, John ain't the guy. But he went out there. He put him down. If your immediate thought is, oh, it's a conspiracy, it's a work, that's fine. I can't talk to you. I can't convince you that it's not. But what I can say is I don't believe it is until somebody proves me that it was. The Cyril Gahn maybe came in and wasn't in the best shape of his life. Maybe that's true. But that happens all the time. It happens all the time. John Jones got put into a bout at a next level. He came in, he took the guy that was opposite of him, and he beat him down.
All right, so I'm not buying it, but Jesse on the stream says John is jiu-jitsu black belt and is an amazing wrestler. That's why he won, no question. No, he won because Cyril Gahn didn't show up. That's why he won.
Whatever
he
you
did.
want to blame
He
it on
didn't
is
want to.
fine.
He did. Cyril Gahn. I mean, take the conspiracy out of it. Cyril Gahn showed up and said, "Beat me."
Is there any
back in the day in wrestling, they call that guy a fish. That's a guy who goes straight out and lays on their back and says, "Pin me." That's what I saw.
Is there any possibility that John Jones is just that much better than Cyril Gahn? Is that even? I'm not asking. Is
no.
Is it possible?
No, John Jones is that much better than
there you
Cyril
go.
Gahn. But if Gahn would have showed up and actually tried to fight, it would have been better for me. Okay, all right. And is it sour grapes because the guy I want to lose won easily? No, it's not. It wouldn't matter who it was if it was handed to them that way. You don't just have 3 years off, come back in, and automatically get a shot at a belt. It doesn't work that way. It should not work that way.
I'm just gonna say this.
And by the way, Deontay, I get it, man. You're saying it's not rigged. I get it. And I didn't say it was rigged. I said it looks like it's rigged. There's a difference between saying something is, but there's a perception. There's a perception that it's rigged because how the whole thing is set up.
I'm going to say respectfully, you have the perception that it's that way.
I'm not the only one.
Maybe not, but I'm also going to say you're in the minority. If nothing else, you're in the minority of the discussion happening right now.
Okay, you can only do that from this sample size. From this sample size, you can do that. I'm definitely the minority in this sample size of the interaction that we're having on the stream, which you can also interact
also tell you that
at Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook.
I can also tell you that I was on Twitter that night, and there were loads of UFC and MMA fighters that were going, John Jones is that dude, right? So I would argue you're also the minority when I factor in at least the athletes who were willing to go on
moved
social
up
and talk about it.
Because the talent, as we talked about with Valentino, the talent was starting to catch up with John Jones. He moved up, took 3 years to get to build the weight, and he built the weight the right way. It's a little flabby in the middle, it looks like, but everything else, he is jacked, and he looks like he's ready for the heavyweights, but he's not ready for Stipe. He's not.
Maybe we'll find out, or John Jones really is that good, and we got a hell of a fight.
Well, we got to wait till July to see that. We absolutely do. All right, let's move on to at least one more thing before the break. All right, you don't know because you haven't watched it yet, but Wardlow lost his belt last night.
Really?
And here's the thing: just 2 days ago, or yesterday rather, Wardlow got the belt stolen out of his car. Someone busted into his car. And at first I thought that was a work, but someone busted into his car, stole the belt, and stole his wrestling gear. Do you think, is it possible, could you lose a belt because you were careless and left something where people could see it in the back of a car and it got stolen?
No,
as a lesson.
Don't
do you,
victim blame
do you,
this.
do you think that could be that?
Don't victim blame this.
Come on.
So here's my
yeah,
question.
but it is wrestling.
Here's my
if you want to send a message to someone about how stupid something was, you're starting your reign, dude. Why would, first of all, you got a trunk. And I saw the video and stuff, the pictures of it. He had like the hatchback down for some reason. I mean, he's a big dude. I've got to see him really close when I was in the lobby, and I couldn't get back to my seat when we were in Columbia and saw them. When I saw security guards go flying right and left, which was a lot of fun to see. But use the trunk, man. You don't do that. I'm just asking, do you think it's a possibility?
No.
I do. I do think it's a possibility.
So for those of you who have not listened to the show for more than 48 seconds, everything's a work to Lonzo. Everything's a work.
Dude, this is
here's my question.
This is learning a lesson. It is.
If you steal a belt, like if you're a fan and you see a belt and you steal it, what are you going to do with it? All you can do is hang it in your house and never show it to anybody, right? Because the minute it gets out that you have it, you're getting charged with a crime.
If you steal it and you know what it is, chances are you can't sell it.
Yeah, what are you going to do with it?
You keep it knowing that you got it. I wouldn't know firsthand, but that's what I'm guessing. But I just see that that's a possibility. I do. All right. Last night, we've got a matchup coming up. JAS versus House of Black versus Elite. Are you in?
Yes.
I think it's very interesting.
So I'm a big House of Black guy.
I'm so glad they got the belts.
I am too. I'm a big fan, and frankly, I think the Elite need a cooling off period. All right, I just do. I'm a big House of Black guy. JAS is tossed in there to eat a pin, I think. Otherwise, what's the point of them being there?
They won a trios match last night, and they called for House of Black. Jericho called for House of Black, but the Elite showed up, and then things went black again, and then House of Black showed up.
Yeah, I'm a big House of Black guy. I think that Brody King is rapidly becoming one of my favorite AEW guys. Malachi, since his days as Alistair back in WWE, love that dude, and he can go. So I'm all on board. That's a match I'll take the time to go watch.
All right, I want to make sure we get to this though. So on Monday Night Raw, Cena has an exchange with Austin. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. And some say he went too far by saying that they have to pipe in crowd noise because no one cares about you. I don't think that's too far. We've seen the MJF talk. There's probably nothing too far in WWE, nothing that approaches to how bad MJF has been towards people. But then as Cena is walking out after he accepts the match for the title, which he's not going to win, they're not going to put that on him. I'd be shocked if they did. As he's walking out, he announces Cody Rhodes, and Cody Rhodes comes out. And that to me says Cody's push is not working, so he has to be endorsed by John Cena. I've heard some other people say it was a passing of the torch from the last big baby face to the next one, and you don't count Roman in there because he's a heel. And I could see where you can look at it that way, but to me, it looks like they're worried about Cody's push.
And I think they should be, and I think it's fair to be. I think that you currently have and we've said this a couple of times, the hottest storyline that you've had going since Daniel Bryan's run against the Authority to 30. And it's like you're cramming this Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes' story could have been told post-Mania, leading to, through, or SummerSlam. And it does two things. Number one, it allows, and I think this is what makes it interesting. Roman's got a chance to be the first 1,000-day champ in decades, right? And I think at this point, because the story's so good, they're going to feel like they have to get him there, especially considering the rumor is when Roman's title run is done, he's moving on, he's following the Rock to Hollywood, which is fine. I think that...
Well, his first foray was not, his acting was not that good, and Hobbs and Shaw, it was all right.
It's fine.
Yeah.
So my thought would be,
under the tutelage of the wise man, though, he's learned how to be a little more expressive. So maybe it works for him.
And I think next to Jay and Jimmy, right? Because Jay Uso right now is the best thing WWE's got going for him, and I hope we get a second to get to that. But
hey, it's your show, so yeah, we'll have time.
I think with the Cody thing, to the point now, it's my turn to take Lonzo's conspiracy theory hat and put it on myself. it feels like to me, it's just a way to talk to AEW stands and go, haha, not only did we get your guy, but we made him our guy, right? He's ours now. The story with Dusty and never winning that belt and all that, you could have had Cody make a run for Gunther's belts or whatever, in any mid-card belt, and let the bloodline story finish before Cody. And you could have worked Cody's story for a year up till next WrestleMania against any other champion you wanted to.
But here's the thing. Cody doesn't get hurt. Maybe this bloodline thing was over.
Maybe so.
And maybe the Sammy thing never happens.
Maybe so. But sometimes things happen that take the narrative out of your control and something else better comes along.
By the way, Roman Reigns' impersonation of Dusty Rhodes, pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
When Rob went to Jacksonville, right? Had he not had a girl who turned out to be with 3 other dudes, had he not lost his dog, his job, all in a 3-week period, Rob Brown wouldn't have been in Greenville, South Carolina. I'd have been the 3rd string producer and fill-in Sunday night host in Jacksonville. And I'd have been like, oh, this is great. Everything's going great, right? Everything's going amazing. Instead, where am I? Got my own show on the #1 sports talk station in the upstate of South Carolina. I'm working for 3 major league teams. I got a woman that I love dearly, right? Like, my life is amazing right now. And had the Jacksonville stuff not happened, I would not be experiencing this. But you know what you got to do? You got to go all that other stuff, working for an NFL team, which was the goal when I went to Jacksonville. All that's got to go on the back burner because what's happening now is so much better.
Also, the fact that you get to work with me and you get to talk wrestling on the air, and the boss isn't going to say, hey, you need to cut that out, because our boss is awesome and sits in the front row ringside.
Correct. We will probably work a little more wrestling in the show tomorrow. I'm not going to lie. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a break. Steven says, when Rob and Zoe are fighting, I usually say someone needs to talk wrestling, but what do we do when they're fighting about wrestling? Lonzo and I are going to talk about Mexican food on the break. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
You guys do understand there's a difference between fighting and debate, right? I mean, debate is what we're supposed to do.
Genuinely mad at me in hour 1. Funny mad at me in hour 2.
I don't even remember what we were talking about in hour 1. Was I mad at him in hour 1? I'm also old and I don't remember things now. So, I mean, there's that. I think we all know that you guys have seen me legitimately or heard me legitimately be mad at someone on these airwaves before. It's not really Rob. It's not the same thing, Trey. I'm not saying no, but I mean, if I'm going to see it at the theater, I'd almost rather see it at home. I guess it depends on who you go with. By the way, that's not a no. Yeah, I was just reading that, Marcus. I was just reading that. And I'm surprised. I thought that was already happening. I think he's just trying to get it legal in a couple of states that it's not. When Rob gets back, he can answer that. But I'm pretty sure like FanDuel and those kind of things, I think are already doing wrestling because they do that video interruption in some of the premium live events and talk about, yeah, I'm pretty sure they're already doing that.
After the show's over,
Mm-hmm.
I need to jump on a Zoom with the corporate dudes to finish setting up figure out what's wrong with the streaming thing. Can you set the board up to where I can just stay on this computer?
Yeah. I don't know what I would have to change.
I don't know what you have to change. That's why I asked.
Yeah, because it's fed by utility. As long as utility's on.
Okay.
And then you just have to have them in queue.
Yeah.
Which I already do right now because where Rashad was on earlier. If for some reason you need to do it in the office, so you can do it, and I'll just like put a cardboard cutout behind me, and so it won't look like I'm there.
At one point, I was like, you know what I should do is I should just take a picture of this and make it a virtual background, and then I can be in the studio anyway.
Yeah, but if I
'Cause
still
nothing moves back there.
Yeah, but if I move,
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. It's not like it's something that I can't hear, but I do have work to do, and I can put headphones on if I have to. Whatever you need to do. If I have to go get tacos, I'll go get tacos.
I do want a taco now. I really do want street tacos now.
Although Cameron's across the street, I could just go across the street. But I brought pizza, and I don't want to spend any money. Unless it's for tacos.
Unless it's for tacos.
Uh-oh, Pa. Almost said the name of it. Van, straighten it up. You got it straightened up. Okay. A little worried there. Came in pretty crooked. Fixed it at the end. I threw out the scenario about us playing D&D and
Radio?
and the aliens sending a message to the AI causing the zombie apocalypse. Chris and I had a wonderful talk about, you know, where we would get weapons, about which food places to hit. Also, this is going to be a discussion. I don't know if it's happening Saturday because we probably won't have time. Talk to Matthew about it too. There's some in-depth discussion to be having, including it's like a 10-foot fence in the back and 2 bunker-like buildings that are right back there, and how those would be the best place for us to go. And I mean, we were having discussion. I was like, okay, do we hit the wings place? And Chris like, no, we hit Chicken Salad Chick because they have like tubs of stuff that you can bring over as long as you can keep it cold somehow. I mean, we talked way too long on that, but you know.
Zombie apocalypse step 1 is get out to the country.
We talked about best
You gotta get
weapons
out to
too.
the country.
But if you're stuck somewhere and you can't.
Yeah.
All right, time for Twitter trending topics, where I tell Rob what is trending and he will tell us why. And then I'm going to try to grab the right sheet. There we go. I got it. It's tough, man. I'm threw my shoulder out there. The first thing that's trending is National Meatball Day. There wasn't 2 meats in there. I stuttered.
National Meatball Day, which is fine. I got to tell you, I had a disturbing moment the other day because I went to Aldi. I'm a big Aldi guy now. I went to Aldi the other day, and I was going to make slow cooker meatballs. I'm a big slow cooker meatball. I will make them for myself, like tailgate slow cooker meatballs.
Dude, it smells like food all day in the house, man. How can you take that?
Slow cooker meatballs, barbecue sauce, a little bit of grape jelly, chili pepper, mix it all together, cover the meatballs up, cook them in a slow cooker for 6 hours on high. It's a winner. I accidentally grabbed a bag of plant meatballs.
Now you're going to tell us that they're good.
They were so good.
Okay, of course.
They were delicious. I'm so mad about it.
Everything that you put on them may have had something to do with why they tasted good. Maybe,
so
possibly.
mad about it. They were so good.
Okay.
Yeah, granted, again, they were swimming in barbecue sauce, grape jelly, and chili powder.
Right.
So they were fine. Like aggravated because now my dumb brain is like, dude, maybe just switch to some plants in your diet and you'll stop being a fat tub.
It's the grits method. If you put a ton of stuff on it, that's the only way it tastes good. There's no way the plants tasted
It's
that
like
good.
what's the point of eating what's the point of eating veggie meatballs when you drown them in barbecue sauce and grape jelly?
Exactly. You
might as well just get the meatballs.
All right, the next thing is trending.
Meatballs, by the way, delightful.
Is cocaine cat.
I'm obsessed with the trend of cocaine animals happening on social media.
I'm not,
because
I hope it's not real. I mean, we know the cocaine bear thing was focused on.
We've had cocaine shark. We've had cocaine bear in the movie, obviously. Now we're just enamored with animals on cocaine.
Keep your animals off drugs. Just say no.
An exotic cat retrieved from a tree in Ohio earlier this year tested positive for cocaine. Stop giving cats cocaine. Stop giving animals cocaine. All right, they're animals already.
Hudson, we've had a discussion about grits before. If you try to eat grits plain, you'll throw up because there's no taste to it. It's just like I believe Mark Ryan coined something that I completely agree with. It's, believe it or not, it's wet sand. It absolutely is wet sand. He's absolutely right. The next thing that's trending is Shohei Ohtani.
Shohei Ohtani Shohei'd out in the WBC through the first few innings for Japan in their opener against China. Also had a couple of big shots at the dish. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Trout is the best baseball player on planet Earth. Shohei Ohtani is the best baseball player on planet Earth. The dude's insane.
All right. One last thing. Bond is trending. Bond. James Bond.
Who's the next one?
I was hoping it was going to be Idris Elba.
I really want it to be
I'm
Idris
okay
Elba.
with that. I'm okay with it being Superman.
I could, yeah. Henry Cavill apparently had a conversation with James Gunn about other roles he could take on in the DC universe. Why? Just go, the last guy screwed it up. He's still Superman, and let's move on. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for us. We are done. Back tomorrow for the Friday edition. If you are at the Greenville Swamp Rabbit game tonight, come on by, see me, say hi. I'd love to meet you. Have a great rest of your day. Don't work too hard. We'll see you back here tomorrow for the Rob Brown Show with the Fan Upstate. Later, brother. We Southerners have failed you. Red Eye Grits, that's the winner. That's the winner.
Hey, Hudson, I've been here for going on 26 years. The debate was over for me 25 years ago. It's just not, it's not for me. I don't, just like I like my steaks without having to put any steak sauce on it. Grits, everyone, oh, well, you got to have it with this on it. Oh, you got to have it with this on it. You're making my point for me. If you got to have it with something on it, that's the point. So, I mean, you're not going to get me on your Dukes. You're not going to get me on your grits. I definitely ain't going to eat no scrapple because I know what that is, Steven. No, thank you. Don't throw chitlins in there. I've had those before. Don't throw. I didn't say I didn't like them. I said I've had them before, and yeah, I know what they are.
Right, but saying I had them without.
I've had gizzards before. Okay, I've had chicken liver. Okay, there's a lot of things that I've had.
We'll not do a liver.
I don't worship at thrones of food. I just don't do that.
Except bacon.
Well, I mean,
All right, kids. Thanks for hanging out with us. You guys are the best. We'll see you back here tomorrow to do it all over again. Have a great one. Now I have to go back and see what it was. Okay, fair enough.
Put a tourniquet on it.
Goodbye, everyone.